tokusatsu, taking the form of many shows including Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, and Metal Heroes. And today, a group of fans come together to review it for you as Toku Secrets.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Toku Secrets podcast presented by AnimeSecrets.org. I am your host, Nathan Dessa. And today, after many detours and delays and among other things, we are finally going to be covering the end of Samurai Sentai Shinkenger as we take a look at Acts 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, and 49, which covers the entire in-game arc. And thus, we are effectively going to be ending our journey of a samurai. And yeah, it's a pretty big moment. As per usual, I am Shinken Silver, and we have the whole crew once again here. So I'll let them say hey to the audience real quick. Go ahead, guys.
I'm Patrick Shinkenger.
I am Chicken Green, Anthony.
And I am Stinking Black, Riz.
All right, we got a lot to cover because we're not going to be just talking about the in-game arc, but we're going to be talking about Shinkenger in general, our thoughts and everything. So we shouldn't waste any more time, and we're going to jump right in. First off, though, just to give a brief recap on some of the things that happened in our previous Shinkenger video, we got a couple of filler episodes revolving around Ryunosuke, although his episode was not exactly a filler, but kind of. We also got ones around Mako, Kotoha, and Genta, though not in that order. The Shinkengers gain the ability to combine all of their origami to form Samurai Hao, the final mech combination. The Shinkengers had their first direct encounter with Dokoku, who arrived in the human world to attack Akumaro, who had betrayed him. But unfortunately, he was weakened in the battle and had to be put to rest at the bottom of the Sanzu River so that he can restore his powers. And while Dokoku was out of commission, in the last few episodes we reviewed, Akumaro was attempting his own plan to use Juzo to break open a gateway to hell, and it didn't work, and the Shinkengers beat him. There's a lot more detail there, but no real need, because if you want to get more of the details, go and watch our previous video. So yeah, with that being said, we're going to jump into the in-game arc. And we're going to go over the whole thing and then give our thoughts on it. So we start off with Act 44, the 18th head of the Shiba House, which is kind of a prelude to this in-game story arc. Now, it should be noted that this is the first Shinkenger episode to come on after Super Sentai kind of took a brief break, because the previous Shinkenger episode aired during the Christmas time, and then this starts airing in January of 2010. And as what happens with most Sentai, this episode starts off with a New Year's celebration, and of course, because this is Shinkenger, they do like a traditional Japanese thing where they're all eating and dancing and just having a lively celebration. But as that's happening, G and Takeru receive this letter from a Kuroko, one who does not work at the Shiba Mansion, and they're pretty shocked over the letter. But we don't actually see what is said in it, but they do appear to be pretty shocked over it. And they're wondering what they're supposed to do, but they don't want to risk revealing everything. That's their own words, and they just decide to pretend as if nothing has happened. Mako, while this whole thing is happening, confronts... she confronts Takeru on what he's hiding, since we actually get a flashback to a previous episode, one where that was kind of the cause of Takeru becoming a little distant from the Shinkengers previously. He said that there's some things that Mako doesn't know about him, and she confronts him about it. Chiaki overhears it and wonders if Takeru has a problem. But as all that is happening, we get Shitari and Daiyu release a new Ayakashi called Yumo Tsugari, who attacks the Shinkengers with this weapon that shoots fire bullets, which is apparently supposed to. It's kind of confusing, but like basically what happens is that if someone gets hit with it, it causes a violent reaction to someone with fire Mojikara in their body that would cause them to explode. And because Takeru is the Shiba head, he would naturally be killed by that. So the rest of the episode, the Shinkengers are battling, and everyone is trying to protect Takeru, even though he tells them that they shouldn't be doing that. Takeru defeats the Yumotsugari with the Mogyu bazooka, but as he does, he actually falls unconscious and dehensions. And Shitari and Daiyu are wondering how could Takeru survive that when he's the Shiba head. Then the Shinkengers have to fight against a giant Yumotsukari, and as that's happening, someone else shows up. We don't see this person's face. We see it from Takeru's point of view, and Takeru is like falling unconscious, so his vision is blurred. But a new Shinken Red shows up, and it's a woman, by the way. We'll go into that in a second, but the woman uses a Sotophone to become Shinken Red, take control of the Shishi Origami, and destroy Yumotsugari. And then as this episode ends, the beginning of the prelude, the other Shinkengers are trying to take Takeru back. And that female Shinken Red shows up, and she dehensions to reveal herself, and her mentor, whose name is Tanba, announces that her name is Karu Shiba, and she is the 18th head of the Shiba clan.
Dun dun dun.
Exactly. Brief thing to note here, this is the first time that we have a female red Sentai Ranger. I just want to briefly mention that. That's actually pretty cool. Now, it's not the first time female Red Ranger has ever happened in Tokusatsu. Technically, we did have the A Squad Red Ranger from Power Rangers SPD. So Power Rangers technically beat Super Sentai to that. But yeah, that's just brief. It's pretty cool, though. I do like, it is cool how we get a female Red Ranger. It's cool that Sentai decided to finally do that. But anyway, that's just a little bit of a fun fact. I think the bigger takeaway is, wow, things are taking a pretty big twist, aren't they?
Somebody's been lying, and I don't know who.
Yeah.
My vote's on Takeru to hot garbage.
So then we move on to what is basically the official beginning of the in-game arc. The previous episode was was the prelude. So we pretty much pick up from where the last episode left off. Takeru, who was still unconscious, is taken back to the Shiba mansion to recover, and it's here that Mako asks if Takeru is the Kagemusha of Karu. Kagemusha is like a decoy, just meant to, be a fake one. And Karu arrives with her mentor Tamba and takes her spot on Takeru's throne. And it's a running gag throughout this whole. It's actually a running gag throughout this whole in-game arc where Tanba will, speak all obnoxiously and be like, "Everyone, you peasants, kneel before Karu. She's a princess, and you're peasants." And then Karu like hits him on the head and is like, "Tanba, shut up." And thank God, because Tanba's annoying.
I swear he is. I hate him.
Okay, so Tanba is probably my least favorite character in the world right now.
Exactly.
Get in line.
Get in line?
Yeah.
I'm not getting in line.
Actually,
Lines.
I think like this we're kind of skipping a little bit ahead in this scene, but I think it's appropriate to talk about this real quick. there's a point where Tamba is like, he's like Genta needs to get out of here because he's just a sushi seller. He's not a samurai. And then Daigoyo comes out and is like, "Hey, I won't let you talk the boss like that." And then he starts shooting disc everywhere.
Oh,
and
that
then
was so great.
I loved it.
and then Genta's like, "Hey, good boy, Daigoyo. Just aim at Genta. Just aim at Tamba right there. Yep, keep shooting at him. Good boy. Good boy."
Yeah, don't shoot everyone else. Just shoot Tanba. He's annoying.
Right.
Yeah.
It was great. It was brilliant. I loved it.
I think we were all Genta in that scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think even Genta was Genta in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Sorry. But anyway, we are of course given a massive explanation on everything that's happened. So the previous Shinken Red, the 17th head of the Shiba clan, he decided that the best way to defeat Dokoku was to have his child, who had not yet been born, by the way, taken into hiding to learn the sealing character so that they could defeat Dokoku later on. So during the big final battle that we've had a couple of flashbacks in where we see the previous Shinken Red sealing Dokoku away temporarily, we add a little bit more where Tanba took the pregnant wife of the Shinken Red back then into hiding. And Takeru was chosen to act as a decoy for Karu, like someone who could step in and pretend to be the Lord, since he had some talent in Mochikara and swordplay. And so that's pretty much what happened. Takeru. So it should be important to note, unlike in Power Ranger Samurai, where Jaden and Lauren are both brother and sister, Takeru and Karu are not related. Karu is the true Red Ranger, and Takeru is someone who was chosen to be her decoy, but he is not related to her. So
Yeah,
That's a huge deviation from the samurai story. And honestly,
So-
that surprised me quite a bit.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of like lore here. So basically, like in feudal Japan, I want to say in feudal Japan, they probably did this. There will be times where someone will try to assassinate one of their leaders, but in order to like, I guess, dilute and just avoid killing the real leader, they would call the decoy a kage, which is a shadow. It's kind of similar to you kind of think of Naruto from like Shadow Clone Jutsu. It's basically that they send someone else to kind of like take the heat, so that way if that person is killed, the real leader is still somewhere safe while the decoy is basically killed in their place.
oh, okay,
Mhm.
that definitely does mesh with the samurai theme in here.
Yep.
Pretty cool way of implementing that type of those types of practices. But anyway, to continue on with the story. So now apparently, according to G, Karu taking over was never part of the plan. They wanted the practicing of the sealing character to take place over a couple of generations, but Karu decided that she wanted to reveal herself since she has actually learned the sealing character and didn't want someone else to risk her life. So pretty noble reason for wanting to come in. Of course, everyone is kind of voicing, their concern and, they're uncomfortable with having to fight with someone else because they've been fighting with Takeru for so long. Of course, Tomba's being all, obnoxious and saying that it's their duty. During this scene, Karu is actually given all of Takeru's hidden discs. So she's given the Shishi, Tora, Kyoryu, and Ushi discs. We get this really emotional scene where Takeru comes out after recovering, and he says that I've lied to you guys. You guys were risking your lives to protect me when it was unnecessary because I was really not important after all. And he says that he's not worthy to fight alongside the other Shinkengers and steps down in shame. We get this really emotional scene where, it's getting late and Takeru is he's walking out in the public and then looking up and he's like, it's over now. And that's actually really deep when you think about it, because keep in mind, ever since he was a kid, he's been living his entire life to serve this one purpose. That purpose is over now. Like, what else can he do? It's really insanely deep stuff, actually. So, definitely not something you would expect to see in a kid's show, at least. Um, so Genta leaves because, he doesn't want to, because he doesn't want to not fight alongside Takeru, and he leaves the team. There's, of course, a big emotional scene where the Shinkengers are lamenting that Takeru is gone. Takeru is... Genta and Daigoyo try to cheer up Takeru by making him some sushi, but he disappears and they can't find him. We get a brief battle between the Shinkengers and another Geto Shu, just a pretty standard Geto Shu of the day. And pretty much the purpose for this battle is just that, they win. Karu becomes Super Shinken Red and defeats them. And it's clear that Karu was an effective leader, but it's clear that everyone is distracted by Takeru's loss. By losing Takeru.
Might
I
I
mean-
also add? Go ahead, Anthony.
I mean, how would you feel if the guy you thought was your leader is somehow replaced by somebody else who is the true leader, and you just feel off? You're like, you're not him. You're standing where he stood, and how dare you take his position? That it just feels off. It's like someone is replacing the person you thought was respecting, and then it just feels off to you. You're just it just feels weird. I guess awkward for them because they're not used to, they don't know this person.
What were you going to say, Riz?
I was going to add on a tidbit that, in addition to being an adept leader, and that they won the battle, one thing I want to kind of note here is the different style of fighting. And while I'm not an expert on the martial arts behind it, it's very obvious from the way they portray Kairo's fighting technique that she is the superior fighter to even Takeru. At least that's how it seemed to me. That she had a much better battle stance, much more sophisticated battle technique.
Yeah, it's clear that she was, because it's even based off around the entire presentation around her, where she's basically carried and pampered by the servants and everything the entire time. Takeru never got that service. She was actually treated like royalty. And then she fought like she was the actual heir to the position. Like it's very subtle in its display, but when you kind of look into it a little bit, there's a different feel about her in general and her presence.
Yeah.
There's no subtlety, Patrick, about the fact that they literally take the sword from her sheath,
and put
it in her hand, and put a disc on it. There's nothing subtle about that. That's legit.
And then it hits you like, if Takeru was the real Lord, wouldn't they have done that for him? But they never did that for him.
Right, and that's what I was thinking as well. It's like, okay, I get you're trying to become a decoy, but it's not a real decoy if you're not going to follow all the niceties like that.
Yep.
And you also notice the fact that Takeru was so ready to just throw himself off the battle to the point where he could potentially get himself killed. And you see that in a lot of examples too, where you're just wait, he seems very ready to go at fighting and throwing his life away. Like, you would think someone who is a feudal lord wouldn't,
Yeah,
do that.
But then
Well-
you see her wait for the other four to take charge, and then she steps in behind them.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
that's what I hated. So like, I hated watching her start walking slowly into the crowd of like Gedoso to start fighting, while the other four are knee deep in it already. Like,
Mhm.
she kind of had it easier, honestly, because the focus is on the four, and so she could pick them up one at a time. So it gave the impression that she's all powerful, but honestly, in some ways, it was just the fact that they weren't focusing on her at first, I think.
Yeah.
Like, it's tough. Like, I still think she's the better fighter than Takeru in terms of like skill and technique. But I think Takeru was the better fighter because he was more willing to get his hands dirty.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, that's the complaint I had from the beginning. I mean, y'all remember in the beginning I said, dude, I hate the way Takeru is not a team player. He's not willing to work with other people. He wants to do everything himself. He's a hotshot, arrogant douchebag. Remember I said all that stuff.
Mhm.
And
But
this is
now-
why.
And why? I get it. I mean, I've kind of guessed it for like the last 10 episodes or so. But this is where it really drives it home, watching her fight and comparing how he fights.
Well, this is technically how Shinken Red is supposed to be.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's not how Sinkin Red is supposed to be because she's not the real Sinkin Red.
Well,
From our perspective as the
yeah,
viewer.
from our perspective, yeah.
Like from our perspective, Sinkin Red is more willing to get his hands dirty and fight and do good.
Yeah, but to literally see her, what's the term for the other four? The Japanese term?
The retainers.
The
Retainers.
Yeah, the retainers actually be seen as disposable by her, like their definition
Yeah.
is. It's
Well,
very
I don't
unsettling in a way.
I don't know if I fully agree with that. So Tanba definitely agrees with that.
Yeah, but I
But
mean,
I think
I meant the approach in combat of they rush forward, take the first blows, and then she comes in late, basically protecting
yeah.
the shield.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Yeah. That I get, and I agree with you on that. Like she's not she wants to hold off and like let the niceties of what she was taught growing up guide her fighting.
Mhm.
But in the process, she's kind of losing the identity of being what we as the viewers come to expect.
Yeah.
Now, the Kurokos and all the other people in the world, yeah, that's normal. That's expected because that's how the other 17 Sinken Reds had acted. So that's normal. But for these five retainers, if you count Genta, that's not normal. They're not used to that. And, they've worked together for at least a year at this point. And so they've.
Even in a meta sense, given Red Rangers of the past throughout Sentai, they've never really been as important as this. We're actively, because I know in some seasons the Red Ranger kind of for the spotlight most of the time, but never in actual lore was the Red Ranger like actually more important than the rest of them. So for our perspective, this is just really jarring, seeing like the whole
Yeah.
Red Ranger importance thing be taken to an extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because I mean, at most, what you'll see from a red, like the really arrogant reds, you're gonna see them being the jump into action first, ask questions later, don't give a damn about any consequence kind of thing.
Yeah, which is
Yep.
funny given the
And
previous
that's
Dragon Gold
fitting.
Red was just like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But then you balance it out with the other reds who are tactical, they're leaders, they know how to get their team to do stuff, and they understand the team that they're with.
And then
Takeru falls in that category if you really
Yeah.
think about it.
And then there's Karu.
And then there's Karu, who's just like, all right, guys, y'all go fight. I'm gonna come in behind and take off all the easy ones and look really badass doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can go on.
Nate.
Do what?
You can go on.
Okay. All right. There's not much more to this episode. It ends with Takeru visiting the grave of his father, and then Juzo shows up. Juzo has apparently now become aware of everything because he actually was there watching what happened when Karu revealed herself. So he knows now everything that's going on with Takeru. In fact, there's actually a scene earlier in this episode where Juzo notes that that this whole thing was the reason why he sensed that Takeru was so twisted, and he challenges Takeru for them to finish their duel, and Takeru has basically kind of low key become suicidal at this point because he feels like he has nothing else to. It kind of feels like he's become suicidal. Like he said, "Well, I mean, fighting like this is better than me just being nothing, which is what I am." That's literally what he says.
So, 2 comments real quick. First comment, I mean, do you blame him at this point?
Nope.
He just lost his entire identity. He was no longer a lord. He's no longer Sinken Bread in title or anything. He's now just some guy. So that's my comment. But a question, because I don't know if it was just the way I watched it, but I didn't get a good understanding of the family tree at this point. So the grave of the father that he went to go visit, that's Takeru's father, but that's not Sinken Red.
Correct. The one that you saw in the flashbacks, he was not Shiken Red. We, as the audience members, assumed it was Shiken Red because of Takeru being the Lord and all that. Would be assumed.
So who is his father in? So who is the father? Like, what's his role in all of this? Was he a retainer?
It's never explained. I'm going to assume he was either a friend or an acquaintance to the Shinkengers at the time.
I don't know.
That's never touched upon.
It just seems odd to me that they don't mention his lineage more.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I thought that his father was another retainer.
I think maybe you could say that his family is something similar to Hiro's family, the people who were guarding the Ushi origami. Like they're not official samurai, but they know Moji Kara and they assist the Shiba clan when they can.
And I mean, if that's the case, if it's another feudal family, that makes sense because, again, like I said in the last 2 podcasts we did on Shinkenger, there are definitely more feudal families out there doing stuff for the Shiba household that we don't know about. And if this is one of them, one sentence in the entire script just saying Takeru's father was the retainer of House Stark of the North or whatever, whatever you want to say, right? Like, it didn't take much to say that one line.
Yeah,
and the fact that they don't say it, it really bugs me. It grates on my nerves that we don't know, because it kind of feels really important here. Like, on one hand, is Takeru just the son of some random guy they found on the street and they trained him? Or is he the son of a retainer, or is he the son of a feudal family's lineage that they just offered him up because he knows how to do Motokaru?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking it up now, and basically Takeru's unnamed father is just a Shiba clan vassal. So he's just, I guess.
So similar to Hiro's family.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That
probably related to somebody who had ins with the Shinkenger lineage. So I guess that was kind of right.
Yeah, it could have been like a family friend or something then.
It did need to be explained and talked about a little bit more openly, because it's very vague in the actual show itself.
And this is going back to last time, Patrick, where we both agreed.
Yeah.
We need a movie on the 17th head and their fights.
Yeah, this whole situation with the previous clan and everything could have used a more in-depth explanation, because even by the end of the series, a lot of that is kind of open-ended with a lot of interpretation needed to kind of understand it all.
Yeah, no, there's definitely more we need to know. Like, it's not enough to just say, oh yeah, there's these 17 other teams before. Like, we don't need to know 1 through 16. Like, that doesn't matter.
Mhm.
But at least we should know a lot more about the first team and the team that precedes them. Because the story of the team that precedes them definitely impacts the story a lot. Just in the
Yes.
fact that they have a Sato and Takeru, their story is incredibly important now, but we get nothing of it.
That's the biggest problem with the finale,
It
honestly.
really
I
is.
mean,
Like,
I don't think it hinders things that much, but it kind of does. It leaves too many unanswered questions with backstory.
honestly, it lends itself to bad writing at this point. So while the finale is spectacular, it's amazing, whatever word you want to use, the fact that we have these big gaping holes gives the indication that this is poorly written story and that they didn't really want to flesh it out.
I mean,
And I mean,
at least
there's some
things
things.
we can reasonably come to kind of our own conclusions to. I mean, that's still not a
Yeah,
good thing, but at least it's not something where we have to sit there and think there's no reason any of this makes any sense. There is some
right.
conclusions we can come to.
And I
So,
mean, we could have done without some of the filler episodes. I mean, yeah, they're good for character development, but we could have had 1 or 2 episodes dedicated to this in more detail prior to the end game.
or at least had like
Or
half
or
of the
extend the
next.
prelude.
Yeah, give it like another episode or so to kind of dig deeper into the.
Honestly, they still had 51 episodes here. 2
Mhm.
episodes. So they still had like a two-parter right after they reveal that
Karu.
Takeru is not the
Mhm.
Sinken Red, and
Mhm.
then have like a breakaway for 2 episodes where we see the full-length scene of the last fight, the parcel symbol usage and the failure of it, and how they decided to bring the vassal to become the shadow whatever.
Mm-hmm. Did we have anything else to add, or did you want to move on?
That was it. I just want to complain
Okay.
about the family tree not making any sense.
Yeah, that's a
Oh,
pretty valid.
Nate, by the way, so apparently Taku's father is the chief editor for Ore Journal in Ryuki.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I was like, oh snap, I'm looking it up right now. Kanji Sutata.
Oh, sweet. Actors crossing over. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Okay, so like I said, this episode ends with Takeru, who's now basically suicidal, accepting the duel. The next episode, the Showdown Clash. Okay, I'm just gonna skim over this since nothing really major happens to it. It's mostly just a episode that kind of emphasizes the drama. So, um, most of this episode, so Takeru and Juzo are fighting throughout most of this. They start off in their human form, and then they both transform, and they both summon horses and ride at each other. There's a brief pause in the duel where G arrives, and they both get separated. Like Juzo tries to throw an attack, and then Takeru takes the blow for G, and then they both go flying off the edge of a cliff. And there's a brief pause in the fight, and G is, asking Takeru to forgive him because he forced Takeru into this life of a Kagemusha. Um, and he also tries to insist to Takeru that he wasn't living a lie and that he shouldn't throw away his life like this battling against Juzo, and the other Shinkengers don't care what happened, but Takeru doesn't listen, and then they keep on fighting. Um, we get another Ayakashi of the day. The only important thing to note about this Ayakashi is that there's a point where Shitari gives him more energy, and the reason why that's important is because, and it's okay for me to say this because we technically covered this on the podcast in our Gokaiger review, believe it or not. Shitari doesn't get killed until a little bit later, like much later. Like we don't see him get killed until they do the Goseiger versus Shinkenger movie, where the Gokaigers and their little sneak peek debut show up, and you actually see that happen in Gokaiger too, in the Time Ranger tribute episode, where they all do a Gokai change into Reds and defeat him. The reason why that's important is because Shitari doesn't grow or enlarge, which is confusing because they've established that Gedo Shu are supposed to do that naturally. This is the reason why, because he's giving the energy that allows him to enlarge his second life to this Gedo Shu. So that's just an important thing to know. The Shinkengers, so Genta gets hurt when he encounters this Gedo Shu and gets taken back to the Shiba house. The other Shinkengers battle against him, and they defeat him with Samurai Hao. There's, of course, some scenes before the battle where the four retainers are really... It's actually a pretty big dilemma. Like, they do a great job at addressing the drama where they're contemplating over whether or not they should try to find Takeru, because on one hand they have this bond with Takeru that can't be broken, but on the other hand they are technically sworn legally to protect Karu. And the episode ends with Genta and G telling the retainers that Takeru is battling Juzo, and Mako, Chiaki, and Kotoha all run to go find him without thinking. Ryunosuke is, torn, since he's the one that takes his samurai duties the most seriously, is really having a hard time figuring out what to do. And the episode ends with Takeru and Juzo riding at each other with explosions, like, erupting everywhere. That then moves us to Act 47, Bonds, where Takeru and Juzo are still fighting. Nighttime has fallen, and Mako, Chiaki, and Kotoha are heading to him. And Shitari and Daiyu also sense that Dokoku is going to wake up soon. We get a scene where Ryunosuke is still wondering over whether or not he should help Takeru, and then he meets an old friend, a Kuroko. And this is not just any Kuroko. This is the same guy whom he encountered in Act 7, I believe, was the episode. It was the episode where he caught the Kujiki origami, and that one guy was challenging his views as a samurai. This is actually the first time that Ryunosuke finds out that he was a Kuroko. Basically, he's reminded that he said that he entrusted his life to Takeru, not necessarily his lord, but to Takeru. And he says that Ryunosuke should choose his own master, and not, his master shouldn't be chosen for him. So Ryunosuke gets encouraged to do that. There are scenes throughout here where we're given a little bit more of a nuanced take from Karu, where there's multiple scenes where Tomba's like telling the Shinkengers off for wanting to go after Takeru, who he dislikes, but Karu is all like, no, Takeru is a good person, he helped me, and she also realizes that maybe she made a mistake by revealing herself, because she threw a huge wrench into the whole thing without even realizing it. So I really don't think it's fair to paint Karu as like a terrible person or anything, because she does see a lot of nuances. So we really shouldn't badmouth Karu. Like, Karu is a good person, I think.
Yeah. I only like I was like, ugh, I know it's not her fault, but like she's not Takaru, but like I understand. I'm not actually blaming her for like,
Karu's actually a pretty good character. The only problem with her is that she brings Tanba.
Yeah.
Valid criticism.
Like, if she didn't bring Tanba, I'd have no complaints about her. But she brought Tanba, so I must complain about her now.
It's unfair to say anything harsh about her because she did all of this with good intention. She just didn't think about what damage her actions would have taken to the mentality of these people.
Well, okay. One thing I gotta say here: the same emotions we feel to Takaru for what he dealt with all his life. Imagine her. She also dealt with it from the other side. Like Takaru lived a lie of, "I'm not this person." And I don't know who I really am aside from being this persona of something I'm not. But on the flip side, she was not living her life. She was in a limbo because she couldn't be who she was destined to be. And in fact, I don't even think she was allowed to come out of hiding until the 19th was born. So it's kind of difficult for her as well to even begin to unravel all the things. Like, first, she has to unravel her personal life and what she went through. Then she has to unravel, oh my god, the ramifications of what people in the last generation decided for us, how they're playing out now, what kind of damage we're doing to these people that I'm just bombarding myself into. Like, she didn't expect when she came in that Takada would have done such a good job that nobody had any idea of that he wasn't the real thing, and that they would form a close bond to him and love him and whatever. So she has a lot of things to grapple with here, I think. And the same way you're meant to feel for Takaru, you're also meant to feel for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, this isn't like what happened in Time Force where Alex takes over and Alex is just this arrogant, full of himself jerk. Like, this isn't like Karu was not Alex. Let's put it
Exactly.
like that.
Yeah. Karu is just another victim of a plan that probably could have been rethought in a different way.
Okay.
How it could have been rethought in a different way, I don't know, but the idea is there that it could have been done a little bit differently.
Yeah. But to carry on, so we continue the story with Takeru and Juzo. They both Takeru overpowers them and hits them with this powerful attack. They're both surrounded by fire, and they both revert back to their human form. But then Juzo survives, and he's ready to kill Takeru, who's too exhausted to even continue to fight. Mako, Chiaki, and Kotoha arrive, and they watch. Juzo is ready to kill Takeru, but he can't because he finds that his Uramasa, which is stuck in his foot, by the way, won't move. And from his point of view, we're actually seeing his wife like wrapping her arm around him, and he's briefly reminded of the flashback where she begged him to stop what he was doing before she got killed. And so Juzo's unable to stop, and unlike in Samurai, where Decker gets killed by Kevin, which is dumb because they were constantly hyping up the rivalry between Decker and Jaden, yet it's Kevin who kills him. That was stupid.
You know, a little rant here real quick before we continue.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the previous episode of Samurai, you guys remember Antonio was contemplating on whether or not, should I attack Decker while he's down? Because like if I don't, he's gonna cause this whole thing to happen, blah blah blah. But you did the right thing by not attacking. Samurai never attacks somebody from the back. You just killed Decker behind his back. You hypocrite.
These are true facts.
Oh my god! Like I was constantly. I was like, I looked back at that episode, like this is like when it first aired, and I was thinking to myself, is it the same mofo that literally just got on Antonio about like you did the right thing when I attacking somebody behind their back, and you did the same thing? You're a hypocrite. That's why I don't like Kevin. True Kevin. I ran over.
There's a lot of other reasons to dislike Kevin. Yeah. Like I said, in Samurai, Kevin kills Decker, but here Juzo's just been injured, and he finally succumbs to his injuries and explodes. The only thing that Ryunosuke does in this case, he does use his Shinkenmaru, but he uses his water Mojikara to clear a path in the fire so that the Shinkengers can get Takeru out. And then the morning comes, and we get this huge emotional scene where, a very emotional scene, where Takeru apologizes to everyone because he lied to them, and they were risking their lives to protect him when it wasn't necessary. Chiaki punches Takeru because he thinks that Takeru is being all stupid, and everyone basically tells Takeru that he may not have been the true Lord, but he was their Lord, and the bond that they shared, that they created with Takeru, and them trusting him with their lives, that was genuine. And even though Takeru isn't the true Shiba head, everything that he's built himself up as this lord, and someone that the Shinkengers can admire and someone that they can trust with their lives is true. That's genuine, which causes Takeru to have a couple of flashbacks and then cry as he realizes that it is true. And yeah, it's probably one of the best moments in this Sentai, really emotional moment. So after that, we do get the scene where Karu laments that she didn't consider how the retainers would feel. And Genta actually hears her saying this, and he grows to respect her, and offers to help. So then another Ghetto Shoe attacks, not a monster, just a bunch of Nanashi, and the retainers are some fight. Genta goes to fight with Karu, offering to help her, and she happily accepts that. And in the final act of this episode, Mako confronts Daiyu as Mako is playing her shamisen. She hasn't played it before since it was repaired. And Mako gets into a fight with Daiyu and supposedly kills her, but actually what happens is that her shamisen takes the final blow, and when her shamisen is destroyed, the human soul that was inside Daiyu is destroyed and laid to rest. And because her soul was so miserable and lamenting inside, that proves to be just enough to raise the Sanzu River even more, and Dokoku wakes up.
Yeah, it's basically like a bunch of negative energy just expanded and just went directly to Dokugu, and he was able to revive himself that way. Well, his answer.
That then moves us to the penultimate episode, the final great decisive battle. It begins with Dokoku confronting Daiyu and revealing that, noting that her shamisen music isn't the same as what it used to be. And by Daiyu's request, Dokoku kills Daiyu, so he destroys one of his own. And as she dies, she gets absorbed into his body. It's very important to note that as she's absorbed, there's this big white patch that's on Dokoku's chest. All the Shinkengers arrive, all 6 of them. The retainers already saw that happen, but Karu and Genta show up. And the Shinkengers then prepare to finish off Dokoku once and for all. The other 5 Shinkengers are holding off Dokoku, during which Ryunosuke becomes Super Shinken Blue, and Chiaki uses a Hyper Shinken Green. This is the only time that someone other than Shinken Red uses the Hyper mode, which is pretty cool. And it's also pretty cool that they remember that. I'm actually really glad that they remember that, even if it was a movie mech, because, like, hey, I mean, having another power-up mode for a Shinkenger to use would come in handy here, so I'm happy that they remember that. We get this, we get this huge battle with all this dramatic music playing, where the Shinkengers are getting beaten down against Dokoku. Takeru was fighting with Nanashi still on Henshin, trying to rush to the battle, while Karu is riding the ceiling character, and we can see that it takes up quite a bit of energy. Like, she's visibly like groaning and straining as everything is happening. But finally, Karu completes the seal and shoots it at Dokoku, and he is supposedly defeated, but then he survives, emerging from the seal without any real damage. And it is revealed by Dokoku that when he absorbed Daiyu's body, he absorbed a lot of her characteristics as a Gedoshu, including her half-human half, which protects her, which basically gives him protection from the ceiling character. And the Shinkengers are forced to retreat, and Karu is left horribly injured, both from being exhausted from riding the ceiling character and from a blow that she takes, and she breaks her arm. She requests to talk to Takeru alone. Everyone is, wondering like how they're going to defeat Takeru since the ceiling character didn't work.
So cool. You said,
Yeah.
you said
Dokoku. Sorry about that. And we get this brief scene where Karu, voices her admiration for Takeru for what he's done, and points out how, like, she's been sheltered her whole life while he's been fighting on the front lines, and forms such a strong bond. So the next morning, since Dokoku is preparing a big attack, Karu gathers everyone together. So G, Tamba, all the other 5 Shinkengers, they all come together. And Karu announces that she is going to be stepping down as Shinken Red and the head of the Shiba clan. And the person who is going to take her place is her son. Who is her son, you might ask? Takeru. Yes, she is legally adopting Takeru, even though he's like a year or two older than her, which makes this really bizarre, but, just go with it. Because according to my girlfriend, this was apparently really common in a feudal Japanese culture. So just go with it. Takeru is able to become Shinken Red once more because he is able to legally take the title as the 19th head of the Shiba clan. And he will become Shinken Red to lead the Shinkengers into his next battle. And he says that it's revealed that Karu used her remaining Moji Kara to create a Shiba disc that will be able to deal enough damage to Dokoku, and they're simply going to defeat him with brute force. And the episode ends with the Sanzu River erupting and flooding the human world. Dokoku and Shitari are standing upon their ship, and the Nanashi are preparing to invade, and the Shinkengers are alerted, and they transform, and they charge into battle. And that leads us to the very last episode of this series, the grand finale. The Samurai Sentai is Eternal, which is called the final act instead of Act 49. As we begin, the Shinkengers are battling against the Nanashi. Takeru uses Super Shinken Red, and as Dokoku confronts them, and he tries to use the disc that Karu made, but it doesn't work, and Dokoku survives, and the disc shatters into pieces. And Dokoku defeats the Shinkengers, beating them down and causing them to drop out of their transformation. Daigoyo is severely hurt. And then Dokoku leaves as he prepares to attack the Shiba mansion and kill Karu. G arrives and gives the Shinkinders a little bit of encouragement and helps them defeat the Nashi. And he actually battles a little bit with a spear. That's pretty awesome. That's G. G is awesome, by the way. They so now that the Nanashi have been beaten, the Shinkingers are ready to go and face Dokoku once and for all. They of course are ready to have like a favorite food celebration and everything. Daigoyo is left in G's care. While the Shinkingers are wishing to fight, Tanba arrives and gives the Shinkingers both another Shiba disc that Karu made. And he also, while apologizing to the Shinkingers for how he's been behaving, creates a disc made from his own Mojikara and wishes them good luck. Then everything plays out exactly how you would expect a finale to play out for the final battle. The Shinkingers arrive and stop him. Takeru makes a huge speech about how they're going to defeat him to protect the world. The Shinkingers do their unhenshin, roll call, which is a staple in Sentai, and this one is really awesome. It's really cool in Shinkinger's case since, unlike many Sentai, the Shinkingers actually do their poses and roll call while holding their weapons, so it's particularly cool how they do that with their weapons, too. Not just because anyone can do those poses without holding anything. So we get the unhenshin roll call, and the Shinkingers take out all that's left of the Nanashi, then they transform, and they basically hit Dokoku with a huge blitzkrieg of attacks. Takeru uses Tanba's double disc to create a copy of his Reika Daizanto, and the other Shinkingers hit him with attacks. Believe it or not, it's actually not Takeru who deals the final blow to Dokoku in his small form. Ryunosuke actually uses the Shiba disc to deal the final blow to Dokoku, which I don't know if I like that. This is one case where I do have to say that Samurai might have handled this just a little bit better since they have Jaden use Shogun mode as a battleizer to strike down Dokoku. I hate to give Samurai credit for many things, but I do think that was one change that I welcome from Samurai. You guys agree with that or not?
No. The main reason why I actually like this is because
okay.
the entire season up to this point, Taguru's. I know he hasn't been the actual Shinken Red, but now that he's actually officially taken over the mantle of Shinken Red proper, the team is still run the same way. Where I guess Red isn't like the head honcho in the fight, because the thing I like about their dynamic here is that they're actually fighting pretty evenly, and giving someone else a chance to land the killing blow just kind of shows that this team is different than the previous incarnations of Shinkengers, and kind of breaking the mold of the formula with the legacy of the team. I kind of dig that approach. I know it's a very small thing to say, but I don't know. Maybe I'm looking into that too much. But
No, that's actually a pretty interesting way to look at it. I didn't. Okay. Okay, maybe I can look at maybe when you look at things from that perspective, I can see what you're talking about. So yeah, I can see what you're saying. What about you?
Samurai really likes force feeding Jaden upon us, so I didn't like that.
Yeah. Okay, to be fair, you can't complain about that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that it wasn't Takara at the end that did that, and it was Ryunosuke instead. Mainly because of the 4 retainers, not counting Genta, Ryunosuke is the one that takes the role of a samurai most seriously, and in my opinion embodies the classic samurai as portrayed by House Seba in the previous generations. And so I kind of agree with Patrick that for the same reasons, but also Ryunosuke doing it doesn't just signify all the things that you said, but also it thematically says, I think, that to defeat you still need the old ways, but it's okay to have some new ways of doing it. Like, don't forget the old ways, but also keep to the new. And having Ryunosuke kind of embody the rigid, strict samurai way, while still being able to work with a samurai team that's a bit different than what's come before it, I think it's pretty big.
But it also
Because
shows Takaru's trust in the other four.
exactly,
Five.
yeah.
That he
And
would,
also,
he would let one of them deal the finishing blow.
yeah, and also, like, this is the answer to my biggest complaint when I started Shinkenger, that Takaru has to be a showboat, has to do everything, but him delegating now and letting other people do it, that's huge, and I like it for character development purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Nate. I don't
No,
agree.
no. That's fine. Actually, I mean, I guess maybe my reason for liking it was just because I thought Shogun Mode was going to be used as a battleizer, so I was happy to finally see it be used. But yeah, I can see what you guys are saying. So okay, I think you guys have gotten me off that now. So
For me, I like
Excellent.
don't
One of us. Go ahead, Anthony.
I like it, but I don't like it at the same time, only because like the fact that they actually use that stupid freaking cockpit only suit outside for once, I will give them slight credit for that. A tiny, like little grain of rice. I'm out of credit for that. But other than that, no.
Anthony's rants tonight are pure fire, guys.
Counter.
He had brought the fire to this review.
he's complaining about how bad Samurai is. What do you expect?
Exactly.
No,
I'm
but
like, no.
it's just so different having Anthony be so like vocal about it because he's there, he talks, but he's
Yeah.
never forceful. That's normally me and Patrick.
Mhm.
It's so infuriating how Sarah just fumbles the bag so much. It
Well,
doesn't
honestly,
make sense.
well, when you watch over Shinkenger in general, you see where Samurai faltered.
Yeah.
Now, I want to repeat yet again. Shikinger was my first Sentai ever. I mean, ever. From start to finish, that's what I was watching. Because initially, I thought that after RPM, we weren't getting any more new Power Rangers. After that, I was like, okay, let me see what the new Sentai is going to be. It's like, okay, so since RPM's over, let me see what the next would be Power Rangers would be. And I'm just like, this is actually a really good show. I'm actually glad that Power Rangers maybe ended because now I can just watch the stuff that comes on after it. They just had to bring it back. Are you the Bond friends?
What's how you really feel, Anthony?
Yeah, really.
Oh, I
Guys,
hate it.
this is a new side of Anthony I've never seen before, and I've known him for years.
Anthony rage mode.
When it comes
Anthony,
to signatures,
snap.
I am very passionate about that, and I will forever until the day I die. I will forever stand for Shikingers, and I will crap on anyone who thinks that Samurai is better than Shikingers. I will literally just go on a rampage and just destroy everything. If
Hey,
you think it,
he somehow hates Samurai more than I do. I commend that.
right.
Yeah, I like it. I like the anger, not the samurai itself.
Oh no, I get it.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying because we're being recorded.
It's like I said, I just get very passionate when it comes to this because this is like I said, this is my first Sentai, so you just can't do that.
So, Nate, do you want to finish the story so I can start talking? I've been holding
Yep.
Been holding my thoughts for a while here.
Yep. All right, so we get our final battle because, of course, Dokoku has to enlarge because of his second life. The Shinkingers form Samurai Hao, unhinged, of course. They don't say the real reason why, but to be fair, Samurai explains that, using, staying morph requires symbol power, so we can just assume that they want to preserve their Mojikara for that. And that's the assumption that we can make. Dokoku proves to be too powerful, and then Takeru decides that the best way to defeat him is to move as close as they can to Dokoku and concentrate all of their Mojikara into one attack at point blank range. There's this huge, really, epic scene where, Samurai Hao starts moving closer and closer. Dokoku hits with multiple attacks, and several of the origami are blown away, and it gets stripped down until it's stripped down to only Shinkino. Takeru, of course, makes this brief speech that he's grateful for having fought alongside the other Shinkingers. Everyone voices their agreement, and then finally Shinkino arrives close. It gets stabbed by Dokoku, but then they hit Dokoku with everything they have with one final attack, and it works. Dokoku, of course, makes his big speech about how, the Sanzu River still exists, and maybe one day I'll return and I'm gonna kill you. And then he explodes, and with his destruction, the Sanzu River water goes back into the other world, and his ship gets sunk down all the way back in with Shitari. Like I said, Shitari survives this, but he'll get destroyed by the Gokaigers later on in Goseiger versus Shinkenger.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. G arrives, and the Shinkingers have this big group hug as they celebrate their victory. Then we get our big epilogue. Takeru was left in charge of the Shiba Mansion since, even though Doku has been defeated, the Sanzu River still exists, which means that there always needs to be a Shiba head active. Kotoha takes her leave and leaves the responsibility to Karu. All of the Shinkingers are preparing to leave. Ryunosuke is, of course, going back to his kabuki life. Mako is going to visit her parents in Hawaii. Chiaki is going to enter college. Kotoha is returning home so that she can take care of her sister. And Genta and Daigoyo are going to Paris so that they can so that they can try to make a name for themselves in the cooking world. Although he's wearing an Italian flag because Genta is gonna Genta. Ryunosuke does this bit. The credits start rolling, and Ryunosuke does this huge parting dance for Takeru as one by one each of the retainers bid farewell and leave. As everyone is gone, G starts putting pressure on Takeru to take up some new recreational activities like cooking classes. He bought Takeru an electric guitar, but he wants him to start practicing. And Takeru looks out, and the narrator announces that the skies are clear and Shinkenger has ended. And then we get the closing credits, and we get the big handoff where we get a promo for the next Sentai that's about to start airing, Goseiger. Gross. And then and then it ends like every other Sentai ends, where we see Shinken Red meet Gosei Red, and they shake hands, and then Takeru walks off into the distance, leaving Goseiger to take over, and that's a wrap on Shinkenger, guys. That's the whole in-game arc. So we got a lot to talk about. So you wanted to start saying some stuff, Riz, and I can tell you're.
I've been waiting for this.
Let me ask Anthony and Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Do y'all want to give your thoughts first and then let me go, or do y'all want me to go first?
I don't know. This is the moment I've been waiting for the last 4 months.
Well, Mine won't take that long. It's just more or less just like I said, I've already said what I want to say anyway.
Okay, TLDR, Anthony likes Shinkenger. Moving on.
Now, I agreed to do this whole thing because I wanted to hear Riz's opinion on everything. Now that we're finally here.
Okay. I'm gonna start off by talking just in-game story arc, alright?
Go for it.
Yep.
How dare they make me feel so many damn emotions?
Yeah, I know, right?
How
Yeah.
dare they make me actually tear up? Not once, not twice,
Mhm.
but more times than I can even remember at this point because I was watching it really late at night. Because okay, so I started watching the endgame episodes for today yesterday. I started around like 5:30. I watched 2 episodes. I looked at my clock, realized if I didn't stop to go get groceries that I would be hungry. So I went and got groceries, came back, ate dinner, and then I couldn't start again until like I don't know, maybe 11 or 11:30. I didn't finish until 3 o'clock in the morning. And I gotta tell y'all, the entire time I'm out doing the adulting that I was doing, all I could think was, damn it, I want to see the rest of the sit now. Because it was so enthralling, and I was so like, Takeru began as hot garbage. Takeru was a very frustrating red for me. Because he wasn't like the other reds in the beginning, where he, you know, well, okay, he was like some of the reds, but he wasn't the kind of red I was hoping to get, if that makes sense. I was hoping to get the Takeru that we ended with in the beginning. A person who's there to lead, but he's a team player. He's somebody that can recognize his team's accomplishments and celebrate them, and also care for people and inspire a team to love him. In the beginning, he didn't do any of that. But at the end, holy crap, he accomplished all of it. And the biggest thing I'm going to say right now, and y'all can hold this over my head for the rest of my life if y'all want, but while Gokaiser is my favorite Sentai, that's never going to change in the same way it's never going to change for Anthony, holy crap, Shinkenger has turned into one of my favorite Sentais in addition to that.
Yeah.
Well,
There we
We
go.
got him, boys.
We got him.
We got him. I
boys,
told you
we got
this. No, well, but Riz, remember
But,
when
like-
we first started this and I told you that this is a season of hindsight?
Yeah.
Everything
No, it
makes
is.
sense when you get to the end.
Yeah, because, okay, so I had seen Samurai, right? Like, I knew Power Ranger Samurai really well.
You
I watched
can't
that years
judge
ago.
the season based off of Samurai. Samurai
Well, I
botched
wasn't-
this whole thing.
I wasn't judging it based off
I know.
Samurai,
But
but I assumed I need a plot. I was like, okay, cool.
yeah,
At some
no.
point, the sister will appear, and they'll have a big thing, and blah, blah, blah. It'll be some kind of boring thing where the sister leaves for an episode or two while Takeru goes off on some thing to realize he can learn to be better. But he didn't have to learn to be better. He was already there, but he couldn't do anything except what he did because he felt so guilty about what he had to do every single day. The thing that I think kills me the most is when Takeru was saying, I did all that stuff where I was being a Sobo and I was trying to do things in my own way because I didn't want anyone trying to protect me because I'm not the real Sinkin Red.
Mhm.
I'm a Shadow.
That
And
weight
that
of
scene
if
right
someone
there.
dies for a pointless cause is how he viewed it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't want him to die for a pointless cause because in his mind, if he dies, they'll just enact the plan to bring Karu out of hiding to become the real Sinkin Red, because that's that state of emergency at that point. So that's why he had some level of carelessness in battle, because he felt guilty, but also he didn't want people to protect him And he also had that security net that Karu could come in the end and help if he ever does pass or become unable to fight. And that's a lot of stuff for any one man to deal with. To basically have your entire life be led as a lie, and then when you finally start to trust your teammates and start to become friends with them and like joke and laugh and let people draw cat whiskers on your face. But while you're doing all that, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, one day they're going to learn I'm a lie, I'm not the real deal, and I'm going to lose them. That's freaking huge.
And I think the drama is legitimate in this arc because, okay, I know that we're bringing up comparisons to Samurai too much, but you know what? Like, I know people don't like to compare Samurai and Power Rangers. Screw that. Okay, Samurai decided that they wanted to copy this Sentai. They brought this upon themselves. So screw that. But anyway,
The issue is Samurai didn't copy it. Really,
No, it didn't copy
they
it enough.
no,
because
they tried to imitate it, but they didn't copy it.
here's the thing, like the drama is genuine in Shinkenger because yes, the Shinkengers were technically needlessly risking their lives to protect Takeru. A lot of what Takeru was saying is technically true. In Jaden's case, it doesn't make any sense because first of all, he is technically a Shiba. He is related to Shinken Red. He could have learned the ceiling symbol. So nothing that Jaden said was really that much of a lie when you think about it. And second of all, why did Jaden leave? Takeru isn't a Shiba, so technically he doesn't belong there. Jaden, that's his home too. Why is he leaving?
See, and
Yeah.
This drama is pointless.
This is the point. This is how I've always described Samurai, and it really, you don't notice it until you see Shinkenger. They chose to basically copy Shinkenger plot point for plot point, but they removed one key thing that made it work, and it was the samurai hierarchy. Power Rangers Samurai completely omitted that part, I guess, for like westernizing it. And in point, it made blue, green, yellow, pink, and gold look like complete morons jumping in the way to protect Jaden for seemingly no reason at all.
Yeah.
And then when Jaden leaves, it misses, like, you remove that one plot element and it changed the entire thing from them being loyal samurai who were being misled to bumbling idiots in one felt swoop.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, oh, Samurai adapted Shinkenger too much. I'm like, no, it didn't. It didn't adapt it hard enough.
And that's what I'm saying. They tried to imitate it, but they didn't copy it. There's a
Yeah,
difference there.
Yeah. But that's where the miscue happened with the adaptation.
Yeah.
And it is painfully obvious when you see Shinkenger.
I will say that final battle between Zuzo and Takaru is really badass.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sucks because some of the element, like Lauren and Jaden being brother and sister does work. That does make Lauren Lauren is the best thing that happened to Samurai because she is a great actress and she's well acted. Like she's the best thing that ever happened to that season. But at the same time, the one thing that made her great with her relationship with Jaden, that's also something that horribly undermines that whole story. So it's so complicated. Like
It is.
I don't want to badmouth Lauren because Kimberly Crossman is a great actress and she was a great character, but yeah, Samurai, like it's like you copied it, but it's like you copy a lot of the elements, but you still somehow manage to botch it completely.
You know what actually would have I'm not saying that it would have helped it a lot better. Had it so that Jaden was adopted and he wasn't actually like part of the actual family lineage, like his bloodline was not actually theirs. He was adopted into the Lawrence family, and he felt like he wasn't really truly a part of their family. And also the reason why it felt like kind of weird the way Jaden would describe Lauren, saying that, "Oh, we can't be together." I'm like, why would you say it like that? Because that sounds very, you know what? It was just the
That's
dialogue, which is
That's
place.
actually not a bad idea because they could have kept the samurai hierarchy aspect out of it and still made the whole misleading subplot make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Like it doesn't work. Like it doesn't make 100% sense, but at least you can tell that the writers were trying in that regard.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, are you done with your point, Riz? Or you want to keep going?
I was gonna start talking about the other characters in relation to all this, but we
Do
can.
you want to we could talk about the Ranger characters, but briefly since could you what did you think of the supporting characters and villains though? Like that's the first thing, since that might be a bit talking about those characters is a bit of a shorter essay than talking about the Ranger characters, so I just want to get that out of the way.
I'll be really brief and quick about it. The only villain that I liked was Zuzo.
Yeah.
The other villains were kind of meh. They didn't have any substance to them. They were just kind of they were evil for the sake of being evil. And honestly, I watched this last night. I've already forgotten everything I ever knew about the villains.
Really?
There's nothing to them really. I mean, they're just kind of
in your defense, they're basically demons, and demons are just evil for the sake of being evil.
right,
There's
but
really not much
like
more to it than that. That's why Akamaru and Juzo are the two most interesting villains in the series because they're
yeah,
different than everyone else.
yeah, those two were interesting, and that's why I liked them because they had some kind of substance to them. But
Yeah,
the demon faction, yawn. Okay, they're there to serve a purpose, but that's all they're doing.
yeah, like
Like we need an evil
Dokukaku-
force to fight.
Yeah, like Dokukaku is intimidating, but there's really nothing to him other than big angry guy.
He's not. He is intimidating. Like he's frightening looking, but that's really it.
Yeah, that's all there is to him. He's Jiren. He's big, strong man who's meant to impose somebody, and that's it. There's no character
Yeah.
to him.
I think the only supporting character to really talk about is G.
Yeah, I was about to say Z is the only character that I want to talk about in any detail.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, Nate.
All I can say, he might be one of. So if I'm going off of my memory of the Sentai that I've watched more recently, he might be one of my more favorite mentor characters. In fact, I would probably say in hindsight now that he might be my favorite. I previously said Taurine from Kyoryuger, but I was kind of high off of having just finished watching Kyoryuger before. Not that Taurine is a bad character, just
Torrance just Doggy Kruger if you take the cool factor out of him.
yeah. I think G is great because we get a couple of scenes where he actively helps the Shinkengers. Like he gets his moment to shine in the finale, and I think he's serious, but there's a lot of episodes where he offers friendly advice to the Shinkengers, and like he's their father. And unlike G from Samurai, he actually admits when he's made a mistake. Like he made a mistake with how he was trying to train Chiaki in that one episode and tried to do something a bit more effective to make Chiaki better, and it worked. So I think, looking back at it now, I can probably say that he's my favorite mentor. Based on the Sentai that I've seen, he, at the very least, he's in my top 5.
Yeah, I would definitely say that too because out of the Sentai I've seen, Torrent is okay. Barza from Zoo Ranger is a completely irrelevant character. I can just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I forgot the name of the guy from Die Ranger.
Master Kaku.
Yeah. I would talk about him more, but that's like literally a Die Ranger spoiler and a half. So yeah, I would definitely say that G is Like even if you drop in Power Rangers characters, I think it would come down to him and RJ, and that's a debate I'm not willing to talk about right now. That's a tough
I'm not.
Well,
No. I am not having that conversation. No.
we'll do another podcast on that topic separately next week. How's that?
Yeah. But yeah,
I've given myself enough of a headache debate.
Yeah, outside of
That's
G,
like
there
a.
really isn't any other characters to talk about in this series, to be honest.
All right, let Nathan talk. What were you saying?
You go
No,
for
I'm
it.
just saying. I've already given myself a big enough headache trying to figure out whether I like Time Ranger or Time Force better. I'm not giving myself that other headache.
Also, but remember, Patrick went for 2-3 hours against Ronald trying to tell him why Overdrive is worse than Megaforce.
Yeah, that's right.
I think Patrick has a bigger headache in
I'm
general.
still correct, by the way.
That is true.
If
We know you're
listening to
correct.
Ronald, it's been how long has it been? Like 5-6 years now? I still
It's been
won
7-8
that.
years.
Riz and Anthony, did you want to say anything about G?
Z is my favorite mentor of the Sentai mentors I've seen so far.
Big facts. I definitely agree with that too.
Mhm.
I just like how he can go from like being serious one moment, but then he can be goofy the next moment. Like it's just
Well, so the best way to describe Z, in my opinion, is his Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
yes. Oh my god, yes.
He's a homely man. He gives advice to his children. He treats them as his children. I mean, if you really look at it. But he's also a hard ass when he has to be. Like he can be strict on Genta in one moment, but still support him and give him advice in the next minute without even blinking an eye. You know, like that's just the kind of guy he is. And it was nice to see the amount of development when things were getting heated for Takaru. Like he was feeling so gutted at the fact that Takaru had to give up his Sato role, and he couldn't help Takaru because he knew that the claim of the Shinkenger was Kairo's to have.
Mhm.
So that entire thing was really gut wrenching for me to watch. Like Z go through that because that brought a lot of emotions out for him, for Takaru, for me, for everybody. Like he basically treated him like his son, and he still treats him like his son. He was doing everything he could to help, and watching him be like in that kind of struggle where he couldn't do anything to help, that was heart wrenching to me.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Anything
I don't care about any other supporting characters. Zuzo is a badass. I like him.
Yeah.
He was really entertaining, and
He's probably the most twisted villain in Sentai.
the most what?
Twisted.
Twisted. Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Given how he's like, oh, that sword is made from your dead relatives. I know, lol. It's like, and
I
you're
know,
still
that's
using
why I
that
keep using
sword?
it.
You're still
See,
using the weapon? You're crazy.
I was biting
man.
my tongue earlier when I was talking about some of the stuff that I said about like how much I like it, because I have a hard time right now deciding, is the final battle between Takaru and Zuzo better than the Marvelous Bosco fight? And I can't decide because both were
That-
equally badass.
Oh man, that Marv. I know I crap on Go Kaiser a lot, but that fight genuinely was real. He could, wasn't it?
It was, and that's my problem. Is like, I loved the fight last night, but also Bosco and Marvelous's fight is one for the books. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
I
And this
can't
is coming
tell
from a
you
man
which one is
who's
better.
This is probably gonna lean more into biasness because this is my Sentai, but I think because Shinkenger is such a better character-driven story than Go Kaiser, this one has a much bigger emotional payoff. To me,
I think
anyway.
and that's the struggle.
I
is
do think the
until-
direction with the action of Marvelous and Bosco's battle is a little bit better because
Oh no,
the,
yeah, that fight is insane.
the way that fight is directed, like, you know, they play epic music. There's no trash talking dialogue between Marvelous and Bosco. And then, like, literally when the final blow comes out, like, all audio cuts out. Like,
Yeah.
they're letting that moment sink in as, like, Bosco and Marvelous are like, both falling down. Like there's no audio. Like all you can see is just the Go-Kaijers looking scared, but you can't actually hear them screaming. So I think the direction of the Marvelous Bosco battle was a little bit better, but there's a lot of emotional moments in that Juso and Takeru battle too, so I can't figure it out.
Here is that Shinkenger is so character driven that we feel super everything for everything that happens in Shinkenger. Even for characters that you don't like in the beginning, like Ryunosuke, I didn't like him the first couple of episodes that he was in until I started to realize who he was all about.
Same.
But with Gokaiser, you have that as well with the Bosco Marvelous relationship because of the history they have there. But the rest of the Gokaiser stories, while they're phenomenal, they are not at the same level of storytelling as what we got here.
Like
And
that
so I
scene
think
immediately after. Oh, you keep going.
yeah, I was gonna say one more thing. I think the storytelling is stronger in Shinkenger and the story development here is stronger. And that's why we feel so much of the stuff like for that fight. Because if you look at it from a technical standpoint, it's a good fight, but it's not the best fight I've ever seen if you take away the emotion.
And that's kind of like the moment where I felt like this was my favorite Sentai was the talk afterward where Takaru kind of admitted that he was actually cared about, and then they cut to the scene later in the episode where he gets officially labeled as the next head of the Shiba clan, and you see like the jubilation in everybody's faces. Like when
Yeah.
that scene walking down the aisle and everybody's like looking at him in like awe and confusion. And when it goes to the moment where they bow their heads to him after that, that was the moment where I was like, all this kind of like, because I was in your boat too. I wasn't totally the biggest fan of Takaru up to this point because he's the most jarringly different Red we've ever had because he was never. But I always felt like there was something about him that was just never told because I didn't know the plot of Samurai up to this point, to be honest. Actually, I don't even think Samurai had finished when I was watching Shinkenger for the first time. So a lot of the
There's one problem with what you just said. There is no plot in Samurai.
it hadn't finished airing yet.
There is no plot in Samurai. Carry on.
Samurai was still airing when I was watching Shinkenger, so the whole female Red at the end thing was actually new, a surprise to me. And that whole segment where Takaru finally admits everything, he gets crowned, and then you see like the whole like the team finally come together for the first time for the final episode. I was like, this is just the best. Like, and I've seen so many Sentai after that, and the closest season that's come to this in terms of character writing is Mega Ranger. But Mega Ranger didn't have the plot to really push it that extra mile.
It's
And
interesting. That's high praise for us to say that Mega Ranger's in the same league.
I mean, the story isn't, but the characters maybe, and this is bold coming from me, they might be better. Slightly. Might be, but that's a topic for another time. But Takaru easily is my favorite Red in Sentai. Easily. Because he's the most unique Red in terms of his circumstance, character arc, character development, where he starts, where he ends. There's not another Red like him. And it's such an emotional story from beginning to end for him. In hindsight, especially.
Yeah, I think we've kind of we subtly transition to just talking about the Ranger characters here. Patrick just gave his thoughts on Karu. You know what? Let's just move on to that. We've basically just kind of segued there.
Side characters have anyway.
Riz, did Riz and Anthony, you guys should give your thoughts on Karu as well. So go ahead before I give my praise.
Hey, Anthony, tell them how much you love Sakura before I go to my little thing.
Oh yeah, definitely one of the best Reds in a long while. But I don't know. It's like I said before, like with Takara being the essentially my first Sentai Red, he actually surprised me. I was like, oh, this is because like I said, I'm so used to the whole like stuff in Power Rangers. You go over to Sentai, you're like, oh, these characters are actually more, intriguing. And I was like, okay, let me just see what more to offer, and that story speaks for itself.
I think that one other thing I want to ask you, Anthony, before I let Riz go, I don't have to ask Patrick this because I know Takeru is number one, so that's not really a relevant question.
Did I
But
make that clear enough for you people?
yeah.
Nope. Say it again, Patrick.
So just another thing, when we're talking about these characters, I want each of us to say where we would rank each of these characters among the other Sentai Rangers of the matching color. So in your case, Anthony, how would you rank Takeru among your other Reds that you've seen?
That one's tough because I either want to rank him either as like I want to rank him as one, but it's like there's also Yamato from Zyuohger. He's a good Red. And then you have Yokai Red, Marvelous. He's a really good Red. So it's like they're always going to be those three fighting for that spot. So it's like it's kind of hard for me to be like, oh yeah, this one's the best. No, this one's the best. So this one's the best.
You got to pick one.
Can you at least say if he's in your top 5 or top 10? I won't be mean to you, and you could just say where he ranks in the top, I guess.
Rank him number 2.
Okay, top 5.
Yeah,
okay, Riz. Yeah. The floor is yours. Sorry, Anthony. Did you want to say something else?
No, you're good.
All right, Riz, I'm going to give you the floor now.
Okay, the floor is now mine. Beware. No, actually, it's pretty simple. Takaru has turned into a really, really awesome Red Sentai Ranger. I'm going to answer your question while giving the answer, give my other thoughts on Takaru. If I have to rank the Reds I've seen so far, everyone knows I'm going to say Marvelous is number 1, without a doubt. But my number 2 is Takaru.
Good enough for me.
And that's a huge thing coming out of my mouth after all the crap I've given him over the year. Over the last couple of months. Takaru was actually a really well done Red. I greatly enjoyed him. I have immense respect for him. He didn't have an easy time, and I recognize that now looking back. Hindsight is the entirety of the show. I mean, Patrick's right about that. If I were to extend that list to give you an idea of who else I've seen and what I think of them in comparison, because all you've heard from me really up until now is Marvelous and Takaru, but I've seen a couple other Sentai aside from that. So, number 1 would go to Marvelous, 2 goes to Takaru, 3 goes to Yamato from Zyuohger, and 4, I want to give it to King from what's it called? Kyryuger. Yes, I was trying not to say Zyuranger, but because I knew I was wrong, but I couldn't remember if it was something else. Anyway, yeah, he was number 4, and then number 5. I don't have a number 5 because the other Reds are okay, but they're not great Red level yet.
Well, once you've seen some more Sentai through this, you'll be able to get some better judgment.
Right, but like the other reds that I've seen, they're not that engaging to me. I find as the others. Like I've seen Tokuzer, that was a terrible red. I didn't like him that much. Go Buster's red was good, but I don't want to give him top 5.
I guess if I had
It just seems.
I guess if I had to put my number 2, I would probably say Ryu, which is kind of ironic.
Who?
Red Hawk from Jetman.
Okay, so it's Jetman. Okay, so we're gonna get him next.
I would probably put him at number 2.
Okay.
Which is weird because I don't even think he's not even my favorite member of Jetman, and he's my second favorite Red. And then after that, it kind of drops off. Like, Go On Red is okay. Red Racer might be number 3, actually.
From Car Ranger?
Red Racer.
Interesting.
Red Racer and Mega Red might be 3 and 4. Actually, now that I think about it.
Red Racer is a funny character. I like him.
I can see that.
His love arc is actually pretty wholesome. As stupid as it was actually pretty well written.
I enjoyed it, actually. That was actually a pretty entertaining Sentai. It was better than O Ranger, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about O Ranger.
No, please don't.
I'll give myself a migraine if I talk about that season. But yeah, I would probably go Shinken Red, Mega Red, Red Hawk, and then Red Racer. I would probably go that order from who I've seen.
Okay.
Yeah. Were you done talking about Takeru?
Yeah, I already said a lot about Takeru in the last couple of episodes of this podcast. I mean, if you want to hear my thoughts on Takeru, listen to the last couple of podcasts and you'll get a good idea what I think of him.
Wait. As for me, I mean, pretty much everything I think about Takeru, everyone, has been said with you guys. I think we all have a general consensus. As far as I would rank him, since I have bias toward Jetman, I would say that Ryu Red Hawk is my number 1 favorite, but Takeru would be number 2. After that, I would probably, Takeru was a solid number 2. If I wanted to do my top 5, that's a little bit tougher. I do want to, hold on. I would put Marvelous in my top 5. Maybe after Takeru. I do want to say Boken Red. He would be in my top 5. Anthony's the only other guy here who's seen Bokenger. Would you accept that, Anthony? Do you think Boken Red is acceptable in the top 5?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I know his Power Rangers counterpart is a terrible Red Ranger, but I don't think we should compare. I don't think we should compare the Bokengers to their Power Rangers counterparts. That's not fair.
Nathan, there is no counterpart to Bokenger. What are you talking about?
Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I can accept that mindset.
It's a fever dream, and it needs to be kept that way.
There is no overdrive in Sing Say.
And maybe Ryoma from Ginga Man. I think Ginga Red's really good.
He's a good character.
Okay, that's enough red talk. Let's move on to blue with Ryunosuke. I want to start off here just because mine is going to be short and sweet. I previously said that the funny thing is that Ryunosuke used to be my favorite character from this Sentai. Looking back, he's not entirely my favorite because, like I said, I think that he can sometimes get a little too over the top. But he's still he's a good mix of being serious and funny, and I do think that the drama that he goes through in the last episode is great. I don't know if I put him in my top 5 blues, though. My favorite blue is Time Blue from Time Ranger, which nobody else here can really back that up since nobody else has seen Time Ranger all the way through, although we're going to be looking at Time Ranger very soon. Joe from Gokaiger is also up there. Abar Blue from Abba Ranger. I think Anthony could. Oh wait, Anthony, I don't think you liked Yukito. but he is one of my favorites.
Correction, I didn't like him at first. I was like, oh, this guy's kind of like hot garbage to me a little bit, but he grew on me a lot. So like, I definitely like him now. So
Goki from Ginga Man, he has to be in my top 5.
Yes.
definitely.
And if I have to put a female in my top 5, it would 100% be Urara Machi Blue. I think I could fit Ryunosuke in my top 10, but he's not in my top 5. Yeah, that's about all I said. Mine was pretty simple. So you guys can go ahead. First come, you guys go ahead and give your thoughts on Ryunosuke.
Yeah,
I'll go pretty quick.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. When I first started watching Ryunosuke, I didn't like him. I thought he'd be a direct relation of what we got in America. But honestly, he's a really good blue, surprisingly. Like, he's annoying, yes, that, follow the samurai way. It must be strictly the samurai way, this, that, and the other. But his backstory with the Kabuki and, like, just him giving up his life and his dream to come back and be a retainer, that's really heart-wrenching. Like, knowing that some guy was living his life, but he had this commitment that basically made him stop doing what he loved to do what his family prophesied him to do from the beginning, like destined him to do. And having to follow that's a very difficult predicament that he was in. And I gotta give him props for that. I'm not gonna rank the blues because of the blues, I only really like Joe and Ryunosuke. So
Okay, that's fair.
take that how you will. Like, the other blues that I've seen, they're not that great.
Yeah. I thought at the beginning of the season that Ryunosuke was going to be the comedic relief character because he really did start off as a over energetic clown who took things way too seriously. But seeing him kind of even out and become not like a blind dedicated fool, but more of a stoic honorable person over time was refreshing, in all honesty. It's I wish I could put him at number 1, but Ginga Blue and Mega Blue, I find them just a little bit better. I could probably put him above Mega Blue, but Ginga Blue is just too good of a character, man. I'm sorry.
He is. I love Goki.
Yeah, Goki was easily the best character from Ginga Man. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna spoil that now. He's so good.
Yep. Anthony?
Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I did not initially like Ryunosuke when I first watched this show back in the day. I was like, everybody else is great, but this guy's kind of annoying. He just keeps being like loud, obnoxious, and just Toro, 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 Toro. I'm like, dude, shut up. Like, we get it. But over time, I grew to enjoy this character. He's not really like I don't rec my blues that much either, to be honest with you. But if I did, it wouldn't be my top 5. He'd be a top 10.
Who would be your number 1, just out of curiosity?
That's actually a good question because I haven't really thought about that. Let's see. You know, I'm gonna go with Goki on this one too.
Okay. Wow, Goki's getting quite a bit of love.
It's like I found him a very enjoyable character. I remember like laughing my ass off when he like had his moments of trying to like to be flirted with a girl, like being nervous around a girl or whatever, because it reminded me of me.
He
I
the
was
big
younger.
brute, but he was a genuinely nice, down to earth guy. And you just couldn't hate the guy. At all.
Yeah. He's like a really big, strong, but cuddly teddy bear. You know?
That's why the women love him.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say, Alex, is that while we're on the subject of blues, I really can't wait till we cover Time Ranger because I really want to see what you guys think of Time Blue. But
I can't wait until we get the Time Ranger either.
yeah. All right, we're gonna move on to Pink Mako. I'll start off again. I think we've established that Mako is probably the character that gets the short end of the stick in this Sentai. Like, she doesn't get that many character-focused episodes. She's still better than than her Power Rangers counterpart, though, because her Power Rangers counterpart is basically just a whole get it, she can't cook joke. And
They look at like, oh, Mako is not very good at cooking. Let's just let that be her character the whole way through. We're not gonna like have her develop her family or anything else. No, just that cooking thing. We're gonna just run that joke to the ground.
but
Okay.
I think I think despite her not getting that many episodes, though, um, if I had to compare her to a Power Rangers character, and I know Riz might, like this, I'm not going to say that she's, completely comparable, but I would say that it's something like Gia from Megaforce, where okay, there's not that many character focused episodes, although in Gia's case, there's literally no character focused episodes. But
Hey, you leave my Dia alone. She is amazing and loved and one of the best yellows ever. Damn it.
okay. Um, she, but it's how she is as a character. Where like, okay, she's not doing much. The episodes that focus on her are good, like the episode where she gets reunited with her dad and her mom. But I think what really makes her great is that she's a very caring big sister mother figure, especially to Chiaki and Kotoha. I mean, Chiaki calls her Nason instead of Mako, which that's a sign that he actually views her as a bigger sister, which is a big deal because, you know, Chiaki doesn't really like to, show his respects to people because, unlike other people, Chiaki never refers to Takeru as Tono. He always just calls Takeru, but he gives Mako a bit of an honorific. So he clearly looks at Mako as being more, he clearly looks at Mako as being like, a motherly character. And I think that's good. I think that's great with Mako. Maybe I would put her in my top 5. My favorite Pink Ranger is probably Time Pink, from Time Ranger. I Number 2 would have to be Boken Pink. I think she could be top 3 though. I think I'd put her under Boken Pink. And I can't really talk about Time Ranger, although you guys have seen Time Force, and she's very similar to being Time Force Ranger, so maybe you can find that forgivable. But
Just to give it a fair chance, I won't judge yet.
right,
But yeah,
you can move. You can take over, Patrick. Now,
Mako, I really wish she got more character episodes, but her characterization from the start was probably the most solid. I don't think she really needed. I classify her as a character that doesn't really develop because she's kind of an anchor point to help other characters develop. Because a lot of the other characters, especially Takaru, kind of grew based off how she helped them. And that character is fine the way they are. And she's just a very comforting character. Nothing's inherently wrong with her from the start, and that's perfectly fine. But it was nice that we got a few episodes dedicated to her. based off the Sentais I've seen, the pink/white ranger, and I'm making that emphasis because that is kind of important. I haven't really to be that great. So I would probably put her number 2 behind Tsuruhime from Kaku Ranger, but that's not really a fair comparison because Tsuruhime is just such a much better written character from top to bottom.
Yeah, Tsuruhime is awesome.
Yeah. So she would be my number 1 pink/white ranger easily. But Mako is a comfortable number 2 for sure.
Anthony, you want to get unless Patrick has anything else to say.
I'm done.
Okay, you can go ahead,
And
Anthony.
you stay done.
Okay. I honestly feel different than what you guys feel about her, I guess, character arcs. I honestly feel like, for me, I think she had plenty of character development. It's not as much as what, yes, which is some other characters in the show did, but honestly, with how she presents herself and how she is as a person, I feel like I had more than enough of what she was offering personally, because like she was just very kind, courteous, and she had all this baggage, but she did not let it get to her comrades at all. Like she never wanted to feel like she burdened her comrades at all. Especially in that episode where like she got injured by that one Ayakashi, and uh Takuru and Shaki and Rinosuke were out of commission. They were, basically they were under the of the, what do I say? They were dealing with, of course, their the monster's ability was basically stopping them from fighting with the girls. So it was just a very good example of how her character is, that like she will never burden her comrades, no matter how badly she might be injured, or like she and it was very heartbreaking, to say the least. Like, but I'm glad they resolved things.
Where would you rank her among your pink/whites?
That's kind of tough because I don't have that many pinks that I'm like super happy to look forward to. Pinks, honestly.
Could you at least put her in your top 5?
Most definitely, yes.
Okay.
So
Yeah, go ahead, Riz.
Okay. So I agree with Anthony more than I agree with you two. Mako didn't have many character-driven episodes about her specifically. Like, I could probably count on less than one hand how many episodes she was in, like, with a focus. But Mako didn't need it because she came in to fill a certain role, and she did. But not only that, um, her role as the older sister, as the comfort source, the one that, when things get tough in a personal way for a person, Mako's the first one to notice it, the first one to comment on it, the first one to try and fix it. Case in point, Takaru. And she's the one that'll monitor even after. So while we don't see her develop as a character, she didn't need to, because honestly, not every character has to start from a certain point and then go through a journey to come out at a different end. Some characters are fine to start in one spot, go through a bunch of crap, and end up the same. And that's what Mako is. There is no reason in my mind that Mako needed any more development than she got.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to rank Pinks, but yes, he's in top 5.
Okay, cool. We're going to move on to Chiaki, and since Anthony is Shinken Green, I'm going to let him start. And just a brief thing: if you guys want to, when it comes to ranking greens, let's not count 6th Ranger greens like Burai and Shurikenger.
Let's count
And
the
if
Black Rangers.
Then who the heck is left?
if you want to count Black Rangers into that little ranking, though, that's fine.
Because that color's kind of interchangeable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Anthony, you can go ahead and start with Chiaki.
I will say this: Chiaki has to be one of my favorite of the Shinkengers. Like I know Takeru is like one of my top favorites, but like it's kind of I think I want to have him like ranking as far as like the Shinkengers themselves. I would rate Chiaki as number 1 and Takeru as 2. If we're like ranking the Shinkengers as as a team instead of just like as color. He was actually the most compelling because because he was one of the younger ones, being part of the team, and he also wanted to surpass Takeru. And I love the little rivalry that he had with Takeru as well. It just shows that he just really wants to just have a friendly rivalry. It wasn't like even a serious rivalry. He just wanted like to just show the Takeru that I'm gonna like one day surpass you. That's gonna be my goal. And like during his whole thing where like he was telling Takeru, like, you idiot, like I didn't care that you lied. I just wanted like you could at least just trusted us to tell us the truth or whatever, blah blah. And I just really he was really like he's the only one that really gives Takeru he's the one that really like out is outspoken when it comes to Takeru, because he's like, I'm not for all that Lord crap. Like, I'm not gonna call you Lord Takeru. I'm not gonna call you that. I'm gonna call you by your real name, because I'm not about that life. And the fact that like he's the only one that really like doesn't mind argue with Takeru also just shows that like he's just that person. And I would definitely rank him as number 2 if I want to rank him, because of course my number 1 is obviously Kyoyu Green, obviously.
Okay. You want to go ahead, Patrick? Go ahead.
Yeah. Chake, but going back to what you were saying, Anthony, with him kind of being the immature rebel character, was really cool seeing how he kind of fought with his own personality to try to do the right thing. Was always the most interesting thing about him. But I'm glad he chose to be like the rival to the red character without being insufferable about it. Like, I haven't seen the entire Ninja, but Ninja's first impression really blew me up a wall with how it was basically his entire personality was I'm better than you. And I don't know if that changed as that season went along, but that made him insufferable from the start. I'm glad Shake had more of a character than just that. And it kind of made him bounce off. Like, him and Ryosuke really did bounce off each other in a good way, because they kind of helped each other grow, because they didn't like each other's approach, but they ended up learning to respect each other because of it. Just his dynamic in general with everybody was just really good. I would put him at number 1, but seeing how we're mixing Black and Green Rangers together, there's a certain Jetman who is never going to move from the top spot of this.
Yeah.
And I know Nathan is sitting here just nodding his head in agreement.
I absolutely have 100%.
Not kind of hard to surpass who's my second favorite Sentai Ranger period behind Takeru and Black Condor. But Chake is easily number 2 on that list. And then Mega Black is probably right there with him. I could maybe put Mega Black as number 2, but that's a tough one because Mega Black is a very, very good character.
I could agree with that because I've watched Mega Ranger
Yep.
with it.
Mega Black is so good. All right,
I'll make this short and sweet. Looking back now, I would probably say that Chiaki is I would probably agree with Anthony and say that Chiaki is my favorite of the main team. Just because I can understand Patrick's whole thing with having an issue of the typical rivalry. I want to be better than you thing. Although to be honest, I don't really recall that being a thing in Sentai's previously. Like I can understand being annoyed with it later on in Ni Ninja between Yakumo and what was his name? Takaharu. But back then I think it was I feel like it's a bit more natural since so I'm gonna let it slide there. I just think that he has the best story because he's very laid back and he has a family that didn't take the samurai lifestyle so seriously. So I think he throws a huge wrench into the whole samurai style and the hierarchy that we have. So I think he was a very necessary character. And that's why he would probably be my favorite because we see him develop more in his own way using Mojikara. And I also like how he's, even though he's a little bit arrogant at first, we see him develop respect for his other Shinkengers, and he's particularly protective of Kotoha. So I really like that. Would I say I second what Patrick says. There's a certain Black Ranger that no one can surpass.
You and I are going into the next season review. I can't wait to talk more about Black Condor.
Yeah, the Black Condor, Black Condor is never going to get surpassed. He's actually my profile photo for the Discord server that we're using right here. Yeah. If I compared him to Green Rangers, he would probably be my second favorite. My first maybe my third. My first would be Hayate from Gingaman. I really liked Ginga Green.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Soji from Kyoryuger. But yeah, I think Chiaki belongs in the top 5. If we bring in Black Rangers only, I don't think he's in the top 5, but he's at least in the top 10. So yeah, Riz, you want to give your thoughts on Chiaki?
So Chiaki has been my favorite character since the beginning of this viewing. Chiaki, I'm gonna say something a little bit different than y'all here. I didn't think he was as immature as y'all make him out to be. I
didn't necessarily use the term immature, but I used the term rebel.
Okay, yeah, rebel is a better word, but I feel like the vibe I got from at least Anthony and Nathan was he was the youngest one and he was a bit more immature than the rest of them because of that. Am I portraying y'all correctly here?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think he was all that immature. Honestly, I think while he had his rebellious phase, I like that word, Patrick. Chiaki was much more mature about it because he didn't blindly follow traditions like Ryunosuke or Mako or anyone else. He had to understand why are we doing it this way, and he wanted to be able to voice an opinion and be involved in the process. And I don't think it's fair to say that because he wanted to deviate means that he's wrong. I mean, I think Chiaki was right from the beginning because when you're in a Sentai, there should never be this, oh my god, he's a lord. We must all like bow to him. We must all call him whatever honorific he deserves because of the title he got from whatever birthright. To him, that's just another dude who was given a similar hand of cards that he was given in terms of being a Sinkin red or green in this case. The way I grew up, so my family's from India, and so growing up, I didn't like using the honorific terms at the end of a name. So, for example, older brother, you have an honorific. For older sister, you have an honorific. I didn't like those because I didn't understand at the time why do we need to give this title to somebody who's just older than you. It didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand it. And the same kind of thing that Siaki does here, where he's like, I don't have to call you Lord. You're just Takaru to me, or you're just, you're just a guy, and you're not this end all, be all. You have to listen to us. You have to, trust us. We're your team. We're not your servants, like. To me, that felt more mature than anything else because he's confident in who he is, and he's mature enough to understand that to be a true team that can actually take down the threat, you gotta work together. You gotta have respect. And if you have one guy at the top who's just revered for being born a certain way, you're not gonna get stuff done. So I think Siaki is my favorite Shinkenger as well, with Takaru and a couple others behind him. I'm not going to rank them all until the end because we still got to talk about Kotaha and Genta. But that's kind of my train of thought here regarding Siaki. And before you ask, Nate, yes, he's in the top 5 because of what I just said.
Okay. All right, let's move on to Kotoha. Anyone
Okay.
want to start off with that?
Okay. Kotaha is the most pure and must be protected at all costs, but at the same time, she's also more than capable of handling herself in battle and in life. Like, she just has such a sweet disposition and personality that I love her so much as a character. Yeah, that's all I have to say about her.
She's the definition of that meme template from Brooklyn. Was it 99911 or whatever?
Yeah,
If anything were to happen to her, I would kill everybody in this room and then myself.
exactly. That's exactly it. And we've all said this in the podcast several times. Like, Kotaha must be protected, not because he needs to be, because we will write if anything ever happens to her.
Right.
There is a distinction we have to make on that.
Would you say she's your favorite yellow?
Yes and no. So, Kotaha is my favorite yellow in her personality and her adorableness. I think she's a really cute character in terms of like her mannerisms and her actions and her way of thinking. But Luca
I knew it.
is such a badass
Yes.
Okay.
that I
knew
can't
where
give,
that was going.
but I can't give Kotaha number 1. But I will more than happily give her number 2.
Okay.
And there is no 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. Just there isn't. The other yellows have never been that impressive.
I agree with that.
Hell, most of the seasons I've watched didn't even have a yellow.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, wow. So, tough luck. I can't help you there. Moving on.
Anthony, you want to go next?
Definitely. I definitely like Kotaha. She's very sweet. She's very kind. She's very courteous. Like, she's just, just overall just a really bubbly, nice girl. But I'm gonna agree with Riz though. I'm sorry, but like Luca is still my top favorite. Like, it's like one of those things where like I know Kotoha is a nice girl, and I think she would make me. I'm saying this hypothetically speaking, by the way. I'm not actually saying this in real life. If if it were this happen where Luca and Kotoha basically said, "Hey, you have to choose one of us. Who would you date and who would you want to be with?" I choose Luca. I'm like, I would say, I'm sorry, Kotoha. I apologize to you. Yeah, I'll bow and all that. But honestly, that's just how I see it.
Okay.
Just
Patrick?
saying. Yeah. Just I think they've said everything I need to say. She's the heart and soul of the team, and everybody likes her. Everybody watching the show likes her. And if you don't like her, you're lying. um.
Or you have no soul.
No,
Yeah.
if
And
you don't like her,
you need to be deleted.
if you don't like her, then I must ask you, who hurt you?
I will find you.
I mean, literally, I'm gonna cut you, Patrick. Let me say this one thing. They almost got themselves turned to get Doshu just to try to save her soul. Basically, I mean that alone should tell you.
They know. I would probably put her as my favorite, and then Gokai Yellow number 2. But that's mostly because there's really not many other good yellows. Like Mega Yellow is good, Ginga Yellow is good, but I don't know if I'd put them on Kodaha's level, to be honest.
Yeah, and I can even say that about Racer Yellow because I'm not really like. I mean, yeah, I think Racer Yellow is a good character, but I don't want to put her as like a.
Like Yellow Racer, Yellow Owl, Go on Yellow are fun characters, but they're not like this.
Right.
Anthony, you always talk about how much you like Maji Yellow. Would you say that Maji Yellow is ranked higher than Kotoha?
Definitely yes. She would be top.
Okay.
She would be the third. It's Luca, Tsubasa, and Koha be three.
Okay. You said she, by the way. Maji Yellow was a guy, but
I mean Tsubasa. Yeah, I mean like he.
yeah.
Yeah.
Were you done, Patrick?
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, okay. Um, I can't really say anything that hasn't already been said, but the only thing I'm going to disagree with Anthony is I'm going to disagree with Anthony where if I had to choose between dating Kotoha or Luca, I would choose Kotoha just because I got a thing for I don't know, I like women who are I don't know, I can relate with Kotoha a little bit more. So
Fine. Because
yeah.
I mean, Luca, anyway, so.
I would probably rank. I'm probably going to go with Patrick on this one. I would rank Kotoha higher than Luca, just because. Now, I don't want to say anything bad about Luca. I think she's a great character, but there's something about Kotoha that touches me, like hits me on a more personal level with her shy personality and just being, upbeat, but also having some low self-esteem. So it's selfish reasons for me to put Kotoha ahead. Uh, I might even say she's my favorite Sentai Yellow. Actually, I would have Luca in the top 5. Some of my other ones would be Tsubasa, Maji Yellow, and the only other person I would think to put there would be Ron from Geki Ranger. Yeah, I don't know what Anthony thinks of Ron, but I think she's a great character. What'd you say, Anthony? You broke up?
Oh, did you hear me? I like
Yeah,
her
now
too.
we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll be covering Geki Ranger after we do the next Sentai we're going to do. So Riz and Patrick will get a chance to comment on that.
Yay.
So let's move on to the final Ranger here, the 6th Ranger. We can briefly talk about Karu, but there's not going to be as much to talk about there. But this main Ranger, Genta, the 6th Ranger. I want to start off quick because it's going to be short, sweet, and to the point. Anyone who says that comic relief 6th Rangers are annoying and you can't do them, Genta breaks that premises' back over his knee because he is a comic relief Sixth Ranger done right. Like, they make him funny. He is not annoying. They, like, now, to be fair, maybe it has something to do with the acting, how, he goes really over the top and makes all of his funny facial expressions. So maybe you could argue that if he got acted by the wrong person, maybe he would be a bad character, but I don't care. I think that Genta has acted great. He's hilarious. He I think that but he also has his genuine struggles of not fitting into the samurai lifestyle, which I really like about that. I do like how instead of they could have gone with like your typical Sixth Ranger story of how there used to be a sixth Shinkenger, but his he got lost to time. But no, they instead just have the Gold Ranger be something completely new that wasn't in the previous generations. I think that's a really interesting, different dynamic to go with. Would I put Genta in my top five? I don't know about. Maybe I would put him in my top five, if only just because I wanted to put a comic relief Sixth Ranger in there. I think he's better than Guy from Gokaiger. Um, but my top four definitively is Boken Silver, Dragon Ranger, Time Fire, and Abar Killer. Um, Hmm. Some there are some Sixth Rangers that maybe I like a little bit better than Genta. I do like maybe Mega Silver. Mega Silver's okay.
I like Mega Rangers.
That's
Mega Silver wasn't that great.
yeah.
He was
Okay.
the weak link.
I could put Genta in my top 10, but not my top 5. But don't let that fool you into thinking that I don't like him. He is the best comic relief Sixth Ranger. So hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah. Genta. I do like how, because he's a comedic relief character, but he also he also is very human and helped humanize Takaru earlier in the season when he was at his worst. And he was introduced at the right time, and he brings some visual flair because the other 5 fight in a very similar fashion with the same weapons, but he comes out with this completely unique weapon, and it's just a bit of a visual breath of fresh air. And his journey of being like the outcast of the group, along with his relation to Takaru, makes him a very interesting character in the sense, like, because most Six Rangers kind of just appear and they're like the new trump card, but he actually has a unique dynamic with everybody. Him and Ryosuke got in each other's faces a lot, and him and Shake got in each other's faces a lot, and his relation with Karu, while very brief, was kind of nice because they had that moment where he heard her speak of the others and gained respect for her, and then she immediately trusted him. So just the dynamic he has with everybody is so unique, and compared to the rest of the cast. But comparing him to other sixths, Dragon Ranger, as much as I dislike Zoo Ranger, Dragon Ranger is a really, really hard one to contest with. So is Black Knight from Ginga Man. And I guess I want to clump both of them together because just like the Magna Defender, it was a passing the torch character. And I thought his role in Ginga Man was very, very good. And then I gotta clump the Go on Wings in there because people don't give the Go on Wings enough credit.
100%.
Yeah, the Go on Wings as a duo were very underrated. But I would definitely put him in the top 5, but I don't ask me to order them because I honestly couldn't tell you. The only thing I can affirm to you is that King Ranger is dead last.
Yes, absolutely. King Ranger sucks.
He is the worst Sixth Ranger between both Power Rangers and Super Sentai. He is terrible. on all
Can
fronts.
we want to remind people that, like, in his first outing as a ranger, he literally gets kidnapped at the very end of the episode when he debuts? I'm not even joking.
That sums up King Ranger in a nutshell.
Sixth Rangers are supposed to be invincible in their first episode. He can't even get that right.
Right.
Oh, King Ranger. All right, someone go.
Anthony, you go ahead.
I definitely like Ginta. I swear that some of the actors just makes me laugh. Like, he's just very, like, amusing to watch. Definitely, I would agree with you, Nate. He's not my top 5, but he's a top 10. Because honestly, he cannot compare to Abara Killer. Like, I just, by the way, Abara Killer is my top, my, he's number 1 on my top 6 Rangers list so far, by the way.
And that is perfectly fine.
Because that story was so compelling, but we'll talk about that later or whatever. But with Genta, I really enjoy his character. Very goofy, very. Also feel like he really just he's what the story needed, because everybody, including even Chiaki at various points, everybody was like taking the role of Shinkenger very seriously and whatnot. There wasn't really a whole lot of goofiness because Chiaki had his moments of being goofy at times, but like he wasn't as over the top as Genta was. Because Genta actually legit made Takaru, Mr. Serious guy himself, laugh his ass off. And that's something that you don't really usually see from Takaru. And like for this guy that he knew growing up to kind of he's like, yeah, I knew Takaru back in the day. Like whatever he's telling y'all, it's a bunch of BS. I know this guy like the back of my hand. I could tell you all the stories that we've done, blah blah blah. That's that type of thing. He's like one of those guys, like one of those friends that you know back in the day, where like he tried to act differently towards most people, but like him and Takaru grew up together, he's like, oh yeah, I can see right through you. I know all about you, man. Like you can't hide nothing from me, and that's what makes him enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Riz, your comments on Genta.
Genta is one of my favorite characters in Shinkenger, honestly. I love his storyline of I don't belong here because I'm a sushi seller. I'm not a samurai. That was a very well played storyline that I kind of honestly wish we got a little bit more of on that.
Mhm.
Like it was there, like obviously, like it was brought up a few times throughout, but I don't think it was ever really harped up and played to the fullest extent it could have been. And that to me feels like wasted potential. Um, he's definitely one of my favorite 6, but I'm not going to bother trying to give you a ranking because I haven't seen Abba Ranger or Z Ranger to really give you guys my opinion on where he'd fall in comparison to them. But just know I greatly like him, and yes, he is way, way, way better than Guy Ikari.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's high praise then. If he's saying he's better than a
mean,
Gokaiger.
Let's be real. Guy was just a walking encyclopedia.
He's like
Yeah.
a fan come to life, basically.
Well, okay. So if we're gonna go there, let's talk about this for a second. Okay, Genta and Guy have a lot of similarities in their character.
Yes, they do.
They're both very highly animated. They're both comic relief. Um, they're both outsiders to the proper team. Guy was an human. The Gokaisers were aliens. Genta was a not samurai, and the others are samurai. So they're both outsiders coming in. They're both comic relief characters, and that's honestly Guy just didn't have the depth of story. Like
Mm-hmm.
Guy is a good character. Okay, he's not terrible. Let me preface that here. But is he as good as Genta? No, because Genta had more character development than him. Despite me saying 2 minutes ago, I wish he had more character development. So take that how you will. All right, like the biggest thing you can get off of the guy is he's a Super Sentai encyclopedia. Number one, and number two, he wants to protect Earth, and he doesn't care about the greatest treasure as much as the rest of them. Beyond that, there isn't a lot of development on Guy comparatively.
Mm-hmm.
Would y'all agree with that?
No,
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, Genta is a great sixth ranger, but I can't tell you he's the best or he's number whatever, because I will be doing a disservice to the greats that I've heard about, but I haven't necessarily seen yet.
Okay.
time.
And that's all I got to say about that.
I briefly wanted to talk about Karu. She only appears in 4 episodes, and I basically said everything I wanted to say about her earlier. Just that, I think that she's, I like what they did with her. She's a very, caring princess. She's not really snobby and full of herself, which they could have easily done with her. Like they could have done something that's like a copy of the Alex and West dynamic in Time Force, but they didn't, and I respect them for that. I okay, if we're going to be comparing Karu to other Rangers, I would probably want to compare her to the extras, the Ranger keys the Rangers from the Bosco Ranger keys. Um, if I'm going off of that, if I talk about extra Rangers, the best extra hero, hands down, is Black Knight Hyuga from Gingaman. No, he's actually my favorite one. I know that Patrick brought him up when talking about Sixth Rangers, but if I counted him as a Sixth Ranger, he would be in my top 5. But he's number 1 if we only talk about extra heroes.
I don't blame you for putting him there because he's kind of in a weird limbo status.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't put the only other guy that I would put ahead of Karu is well, actually, no. I think Doggy from SPD not SPD Deco Ranger is a little bit better. He's a cool mentor. I would put him ahead of Taurine though, but not ahead of Rio from Geki Ranger because Rio's the main villain, so he gets quite a bit of character development.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would put her there. You could just give brief thoughts on her since she doesn't really do much. She doesn't have it. There's not as much depth to go into, but that's how I would put it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna bounce off what you said and say that I'm glad that she wasn't the cocky princess type. She was actually immediately aware of what was going on around her, immediately picking up on the fact that she kind of broke the dynamic of the team and put an extra layer of stress on everyone else, and knew exactly what to do to fix it. For being so young and for being probably so socially secluded, she's a really smart character. She picked up on everything and knew how to fix it immediately and did it with such certainty and confidence. And especially with the kind of dramatic heartstringing pull her introduction did, how she handled everything and how they wrote her was just A+. She's not around for very long, but she left one amazing impression.
Riz, Anthony, anything you guys want to say?
That's the thing, though, is that well, I don't hate her. I don't have any this taste for her. I don't like, I do like her. It's just she didn't really give me much to really work with. You know what I mean? And surprisingly, it's probably gonna be kind of crazy. I know, the incoming crazy moment here. I actually like Lauren more like Kaoru. There, I said it.
Okay.
That's probably like a weird take. Is like Anthony White. Like what? Anthony, the guy who hates samurai, likes
Honestly, with how great lore was written and such a trash heap that Samurai was, I'm not going to debate you on that. You have a valid argument.
Thank you.
You done, Anthony?
I'll take that as a yes.
I
Did
think
you hear me? I said yes. Yeah.
I didn't hear that. Okay, anyway, yeah, I agree with Patrick. When she first came in, and like, while Tanba was talking in the beginning, I really wanted to hate her. I really didn't want to like her. Because I understood, as they were talking about everything, I started putting the piece together on Takaru at that point. And it was around that point I started to like Takaru as like a really, really good red. That was around when I started to understand everything. But I couldn't hate her because she was self-aware. She understood immediately I came into a family and I screwed it up. And now everyone's hurt, they're confused. But I can't back down because this is, you know, what they said to do. This is what the last Sanderson told me to do. So I have to do this. Very samurai-like, a lot like Ruronosuke in that way. Um, I wish we had a lot more time with her. Like I wish Shinkenger was a lot longer. Like if we could have gotten like, I don't know, let me think about that. Maybe 55, 57 episodes more of Shinkenger than we got. Like another 10 episodes where we had like a 10 episode arc with her as the red while Takaru was off doing his own like soul searching thing to figure out where he belongs in this world. Um I would have liked it a lot more as a series because there are so many things left that we didn't get. And her development as a character and us understanding her better is one of the things I feel robbed on as we were wrapping up this review.
Is there anything else you want to say?
No, my silence means I'm done.
All right. Well, just to wrap this up, let's all give our closing thoughts on this Sentai, and we can say, if you guys want to say where you would rank it. Patrick doesn't have to say that because we already know what his answer is going to be. Just go ahead. Patrick, this is your favorite Sentai, so you can give your closing thoughts.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Very rarely does watching a show for the first time or a season of a show for the first time leave you sitting by yourself just filled with all sorts of emotions. And when I finished Shinkenger for the first time, it left an impact on me, like a very strong impact. And this was my third time watching through the season, and the final arc still gives me those emotional highs that made me fall in love with the season the first time around. And because I, have the hindsight of what happens, I'm able to pick up on more of the finer details of like the foreshadowing and like the little hints of things to come. And the show, just from its characters alone and how the plot pushes everything forward, it's just so well written. Like any like negatives I have about this season, I would just consider nitpicks personally.
Yeah.
Like the villains, they're just there to be enemies and they don't have anything big deal, but who cares? They're not meant to be in the spotlight. So who cares if they're forgettable? This is my favorite Sentai, and so far nothing has come. Well, I wouldn't say nothing has come close to this to me because the season we're going to talk about next did a really dang good job of pushing it at one point in time. But I just think the cast-wide development and how it all comes together in the final arc, it's just the best character writing I think Sentai has done. And I can't hate this. I can't put this season any lower than 1. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Anthony?
Even after all these years, I still enjoy it as if I'm watching for the first time again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like I said, you already know first Sentai, so you pretty much already know how I already feel. I just don't need me even like continue further. Let one of you guys talk about it.
Where is Shinkenger ranked in your top 5 again?
I think it. Since it is my first, I think, yeah, definitely my number 1.
Okay. Um, go ahead, Riz. You go next.
Okay. I'm going to give a very complicated answer to the Shinkenger thing because my thoughts right now are very complicated. So, Shinkenger is probably one of the best written stories I've seen in Sentai, with one of the best character developments of any other Sentai. The emotions that Patrick talks about, I felt that entire roller coaster through the entire last 5 or 6 episodes,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the end game arc consisted of. I think it was 6, right?
Yeah.
I felt that, and like Patrick, that left a really big imprint on me. Now I know you're all wondering, is Riz about to say Shinkenger is better than Gokaiger? And I'm going to give you all the complicated answer now. Gokaiger will always be my favorite because it was my first, much in the same way Anthony says that. However, having said that, from a critique and a reviewer perspective, Shinkenger, hands down, is the best Sentai on a technical level. And I have completely stunned everyone in the room.
I have the stupidest smirk on my face right now. I told you when we started this, Riz. It'll be different when we get to the end, and I'm glad you see it now.
I mean, okay, so I see it, but I
Yeah.
will still maintain Gokaiger is my
No,
fan favorite.
you can keep that, but I was
But
right.
I will say, what?
I was right.
You are right. You happy?
No, I'm happy that you understand it. I'm not happy that I'm flaunting it over you. I'm happy that you get it.
Like, okay, so on a very technical level, the thing Shinkenger does better is plot and story and emotion. The things Gokaiger does well is being epic, having a really good plot, having really good characters. The characters in Shinkenger and Gokaiger, if I had to put a dream team together, it would be these two teams, honestly. And I mean, I've seen bits and pieces of other Sentais. I haven't finished a lot of them, but I've seen a good enough bit of other Sentais. I've seen most of the modern ones that came out after Gokaiger. And nothing of the energy of the Gokais when they enter a scene, but nothing compares to how much you feel for this cast of characters. The
Mhm.
thing you feel, it's just incredible to me.
That final unhinged roll call gives
Oh,
me
dude,
chills
yeah,
every single time I get to
I had
that
a big,
part.
I had a big grin on my face during that. By the way,
Yeah, the very somber music with them doing it with such powerful confidence. God, it's so good.
I know.
so yeah, Senkenger are great Sentai, I still stand by if you're entering like Super Sentai as a whole, start Gokaiger, but then do yourself the favor watching Shinkenger next. Because that's the best entry to the franchise as far as I'm concerned right now.
Mhm.
I'm sure other Sentai will have exceptional cast, exceptional plot, and will also be equally good to like these two. But I think these are like really two great Sentais out of the bunch. And I
Yeah.
think that's all I got to say about that. I think I've done enough stunning of everyone tonight.
I'm not necessarily stunned. I'm just more happy that
Yeah.
you finally get it.
Yeah.
I think just to wrap up with me, this actually wasn't my first Sentai. Unlike Patrick and Anthony,
No, it
I was
wasn't
actually
mine
watching.
either.
Yeah. What was your first, Patrick?
Zoo Ranger, and I hated every
Oh.
second of it.
Oh. Okay. Well, I started watching this actually, after Samurai aired because people were complaining about how Samurai was like a carbon copy of Shinkenger, and I wanted to see if that was true, and I found out it was true pretty quickly. But aside from that, Shinkenger will. So I don't know if I could put Shinkenger as like number two because number one is Jetman. Jetman was actually my first Sentai, by the way, so that's another reason why I consider it my favorite. But I do think I would say Shinkenger is maybe in my top three because I would I don't think it's better than Time Ranger, but I do think it's better than a lot of other ones. I would put it in my top three. And as far as modern Sentais are concerned, I think Shinkenger is like the definitive way to like do a modern Sentai with story and characters. So I do give it high praise for that. It's definitely the second best of the Heisei era behind only. Well, actually, no. Jetman is also Heisei era. I keep forgetting that. It's the third best in the Heisei era, I guess. But yeah. Sorry about that. It's still great. I think the best way to wrap this up is that we can each give. We don't have to give any analysis. Let's just give a plain and blunt answer. From like a grading scale from like an A to an F. Let's give it, and I say A plus. What about everybody else?
A plus.
Triple S plus. I'm going Devil May Cry grading system over here.
Okay, cool.
I'm
Riz?
Devil May Cry. I'm gonna give it an A plus.
Okay, cool.
Screw your Devil May Cry. I don't see that here.
All right, guys. Well, unless anybody else got anything else to say?
Nope.
One last thing. Sorry, Pat. If there is a fight between Takeru and Marvelous, Marvelous wins. That's it. The end.
Let's be real. That fight would be hype, though.
It would. But we all know Marvelous would win.
Because just like how with everything else, he pulls something out of his rear end. Deus Ex Machina's victory, like he does all the time.
But it'd be really freaking hype.
Just have Gokai Red Gold mode versus Hyper Shinken Red, and just let
them go at it.
Yeah, just let them go at it.
Now you know what? Forget all the Henshin, forget all the suits. I want them to go hand to hand with no suits, no power. Just the weapons that they have, like their gun and the sword for Marvelous, and the sword for Takeru. That's all I want.
Yeah, this needs to happen. Hey, Toei, get on it.
Get on it.
Because I don't know who would win, but I do know who would win. Marvelous would
we
win.
win. No, we win.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you know that strongest Sentai movie thing that came out a while back?
Oh, I feel bad.
Missed opportunity.
Yes. Oh my.
They brought in Ninja Red, but not Takaru?
He was
Well,
probably, he might have been busy, so that's probably what it was.
I don't care.
yeah, his actor has become like really big in Japan recently.
Yeah, he's outgrown
That's good.
Sentai, but
Oh, and he can speak pretty good English, by the way. I've seen a video of him speaking good English.
That's good.
Okay, aside from that little tangent, anybody else have anything else they want to say?
nah, I'm good.
No, we're good. End it.
All right, cool. Well, guys, that's a wrap on Shinkenger once and for all. We all enjoyed it. That's definitely the consensus. There doesn't seem to be any different opinions. Do we recommend that you go and watch Shinkenger? And our answer to that is what? You haven't watched it already? Stop whatever you're doing and go watch it right now.
Have you listened to our last 3 hours of this podcast?
Um, so next time, as we keep on saying, we're going to take a bit of a huge leap back in time, all the way back to 1991. At least that's the year that the Sentai that we're going to be looking at next aired. My favorite Sentai. What'd you say?
The same age as I am.
Yep. Chojin Sentai Jetman, which means that for the first time, we are not going to be looking at a Sentai that was adapted into Power Rangers. So that's going to be a very interesting journey. It's going to be especially big for Riz and Anthony because they've never seen this Sentai before.
Oh, you two are in a treat.
So I will close my last thought on this podcast with I'm ready to take my wings and fly.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah, that, and you say that, and now I'm getting emotional again.
You think I don't know anything about Setman? I know some Setman stuff. I know the motif.
No, but
Yeah.
Nathan should understand why I said that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
God dang it, that's gonna hurt all over again, isn't it?
All right.
So we're going to start. We're going to take a look at the first 10 episodes next time. So we've wrapped up our Samurai's journey, but when one journey ends, another begins, and that's exactly what's going to happen on our next podcast. So we hope you guys all will prepare for that. Please be sure to like this video if you're watching it on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave comments down below with your thoughts on Shinkenger or some other things you'd like to see us cover. Be sure to check us out at animesecrets.org. Check out Anime Secrets on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all the other social media pages. Once again, we thank you guys so much for bearing with us through this Samurai's journey, through the many obstacles we went through, including a very ill-advised detour through the Kamen Rider Decade thing, which turned out to be pointless. Sorry.
At least you don't have to watch it again.
Exactly. We thank you guys so much for bearing with us through this journey. It's come to an end. We have really enjoyed it, and we are really excited about starting our next journey with Jetman. Once again, we thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we will see you guys next time when we spread our wings and begin our next flight into Chojin Sentai Jetman. But until that time, folks, we'll see you later.